What is up, RotoGrinders? Dean 789-623-48937 is not here today. And so he was a late scratch. Myself, TJ Zwarych, filling in for some Grinders Live, ready to talk NFL with you on DraftKings, on FanDuel, a little bit of betting, a little bit of stat hero, but we'll get into that later. I'm joined by two of the very best in the industry. First up, Bobby Gomes. How you doing today?
Doing well. Did you write out that intro there again? Those numbers for Dean? I like that. Those very very nice way to go about that.
I knew it started with 7, and so after that, I just kind of improvised and picked whatever numbers came to the head. But how you feeling about this slate? Just before we dive into it, how are you excited? You worried? You playing heavy? Playing light?
I'm playing 10 teams on DK. I think I'm throwing 10 in the cat. For me, this slate's like kind of tight. I feel like it's that for pretty much everyone. In terms of stacks, I think there are a bunch of different ways you can go. Paying up at quarterback seems like the most likely route, in my opinion. And then the running backs, like between 5 and 6K, I wish there was more value. There isn't. But we'll just make do.
We're going to figure it out. And one of the people here figuring it out with us, another one of the best DFS players in the entire industry, Kirkwood. Kirkdiese, how you doing?
Yo. I was wondering if we do Spidey touchdowns today. Is that what we do?
We can do some Spidey touchdowns, I think. Every time we get 50 likes, we're going to be getting more and more people tuning in as we go. So hit the like button. You're watching this on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. We got content coming all morning long up until lock. And, up until 50 likes, I think we can throw a Spidey touchdown in there. And for those watching the World Cup, that's live right now as well. So I see people in chat already hyped about that one. Either of you have any bets going in for that?
No. See, rumor has it that Dean actually faked a call out to watch this game because he bet a huge bet on it. That's the rumor circulating.
I heard Dean was a big soccer guy, so makes sense.
If there's one thing we know about
Dean played goalie growing up. I think little known fact.
He might even be at the game. I heard it just like a real last minute trip he took down there, but we'll see. Hopefully he comes back. It's classic Dean just not being reliable. He's supposed to be hosting these shows and he's gone like 3-4 days a week. He's always finding subs. But we're not here to just bash on Dean. We're here to break down today's NFL slate. So what do you think? I think we're going to start. I got my screen share up on DraftKings here. I think that's usually how we kind of like to run things. How do we do this on Grinders Live? We go position by position, or we go game by game?
It's been position by position, but I think Dean likes to have an organic conversation. So take it wherever you want to take it. Don't feel confined, TJ. I think
all right.
Is the words. But I think position by position starts, and then we just take it from there.
Gonna play it by ear and just kind of see where we go. Something I like to do after talking quarterbacks is kind of just dive right into stacks. And so starting here at the QB position, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, the two top priced, top projected guys on the board. On FanDuel, I feel like Jalen Hurts is kind of the top guy, but on DraftKings, it's a bit of a different story with all of the pricing a little closer together. Bobby, who are you targeting today at QB on I know you're primarily playing DraftKings?
Yeah, I actually like Mahomes a good bit. I know people are worried about him not being pushed. I think there are somewhat of good run backs options. I like their receivers so condensed. The Texans are terrible. Team total stinks, but they're going to have to throw the ball, right? So I don't mind Mahomes. I understand like going to Jalen Hurts for Chicago. If you're playing cash games, like it makes a ton of sense. Herbert seems like the most logical like stacking option for tournaments and run backs with Henry. I like him. And then we got late news with Cincinnati, like T. Higgins, Boyd are going to be ready to go. And I don't mind Burrow for that reason because I think they're going to go a little bit underowned. like just the Cincinnati stack in general. And then in the low end, there's Brady staring at me at 5.5 again. Don't really know if I want to do it, but he is 5.5. I think Mike Evans is too cheap. I think Godwin's too cheap. I've sworn myself off of him multiple times this year, but if I'm going cheap at quarterback, I think he'd be the guy I'd be targeting.
Oh, I don't know if I can do some Tom Brady today. It's just so tough. He's so bad. He's been so bad this year, and that team has just been abysmal. They're giving my Saints a chance to win the division still, even though they've been horrific. I think my favorite in that cheapy range over on DraftKings is just trying to get up a little bit more to Dak Prescott. Kirkdiese, who you liking today at the quarterback position?
Yeah, so first, kind of backtrack here. We'll take this organization because we usually do like kind of like an overview. So basically, I just wanted to point out that we basically have like a top tier of games today and then like a bottom tier. Like, so it's like, that's just by the totals. We started like the high end is the KC, Philly, games. Those are 49.5, 48.5. Then we got Dallas in the mix. And then the Chargers game, Bobby already professed his love for Herbert. I think Herbert is my favorite play from the quarterback position. And then we've got some games that are, kind of in that lower tier, like the Detroit, the Jets, New England. Like there's a lot of warts in some of these games, but they could be good GPP spots, right? Like New England, Las Vegas, Atlanta, New Orleans, Cincy, Tampa. I am kind of interested with Tom Brady today. Like I've been against Tom for most of this season. I think I've played him like once. But I just think, like, first of all, it's a tight spread since he's only 3 points, right? You're definitely getting an angry Tom Brady narrative. Like, I don't know if that matters anymore. I don't know if he can fix anything. He may just be done, father time. He just certainly looks awful. But I'll tell you one thing. His receiving weapons have done him no favors this season. I mean, Bobby can tell you when he had it, he was like all in on him. When it started off the game, Mike Evans drops like a 60-yard bomb wide open and just right off his fingers just drops the ball like for no reason, right? Like, he's had a lot of those. Now, he's also played horrible. He's not very mobile, all that. But, like, they're at home. It's a 3-point spread. He got embarrassed on national TV. Everybody's healthy. If they're going to score, it's coming from him, right? So, and then this is a week that I think is going to be kind of low scoring in comparison to what we've been used to. So I think this is the perfect time to use him. Now, I'm not saying, like, smash him because, he may suck and he may just be over the, just done. Actually, I sent a text to Bobby the other day on that game. I was like, the guy pouring liquor out. I was like, rest in peace, Tom Brady. It's officially over. You know what I mean? But now here I am. I have a lineup with Tom Brady today. So, God, I wish I could stick to my guns. But I like him. I do like Dak also. So there's that top tier of quarterback, right? It's Mahomes, who there's warts, right? Like, is there going to be any pushback with Houston? Houston did push back last week, but, like, that was had to be an anomaly. I can't see them keeping up with Mahomes and the Chiefs. But the thing is that even if it gets out of hand, they're a passing offense. Like, they just can't help themselves. You know what I mean? It's like Mahomes, like, he gets down the red zone, he's passing. Everyone wants to play Pacheco because it makes the leverage spot. I get it. You should just be able to just run, whatever you want on them, but they're still going to pass. He's still going to get touchdowns, but there's warts there. Jalen Hurts, it's big favorites. They're going to be much pushback with Chicago. I mean, you have to love everything about Hurts. The thing about Hurts is he's first in rushing TDs, third in rushing yards per game, first in red zone carries per game for a quarterback. Like, there's ways that this game goes Miles Sanders. There's pass to that route, and there's pass that it goes Jalen Hurts has a massive game, as always. So you have to consider him. Herbert's my favorite of the bunch. The thing about Herbert, first of all, it's Tennessee's 28th against the pass. You got the bring back with Derrick Henry, who's in the best running back spot. You've got all his weapons finally. Herbert has been second in passing yards this season, just behind Mahomes. Second in passing attempts. That's what's crazy to me because this guy's played injured most of the year and hasn't had his weapons, right? So now he's got a full arsenal. So that's my guy, and it's a pass funnel defense, Tennessee. So I just love every lineup I make. I just keep making Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams stacks, and it just feels really nice to me. So I think that's the way I'm going for my main lineup today. Joe Burrow's right there. Dak's right there, and then Tom Brady. And then I really don't have any interest in anyone else. Sorry if that was long.
No, you're good. Dean's not here to fill the time like he usually does. So anytime you got a long rant, that is encouraged on today's show. Something specifically I want to touch on with the Tom Brady thing before I get into the other QBs as well, because I love Justin Herbert as well. He's my favorite on the board today. Jalen Hurts is going to be number 2 for me, but something I like doing in my large field stuff, it's been very fruitful for me for NFL in the past, is especially when I don't have a running quarterback, I'm not stacking with one receiver. I'm probably not even stacking with 2 receivers. I need to stack with 3. If my quarterback is somebody like Tom Brady, I view this as the only way he wins a tournament is he's probably throwing 4 or 5 touchdown passes, and they're likely not all going to be to one guy. So I want to get 3 different ones in there. It's crazily enough one of the reasons why I'm actually not as high on Joe Burrow as I was before the T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd news. I kind of hoped one of them would be out so that it opened up Trenton or Irwin or something like that, some value to make that full stack a little bit easier so I can differentiate from the field. We just got word that Julio Jones, he's not going to play today. And so if we're going Tom Brady in some stacks today before I go back up to the higher end guys, who are you going to be playing him with? Are you just rolling Evans and Godwin, 2 guys who aren't very cheap, or are you trying to get a Russell Gage, a Scotty Miller, or even a Cameron Braid or Kate Otten in there with him? I'll throw that to you, Chris.
First of all, I think Mike Evans is like a fantastic play, regardless of whether you use Brady or not. But he would be my number 1. Godwin right there, and you say they're expensive, and they're kind of, but
it's inexpensive.
Oh, inexpensive. Yeah, they're inexpensive for what, you know what I mean? It's so easy to make that double stack with Godwin and Evans. So that's my preferred way. I do like Kate Otten because tight end is kind of weak besides Kelsey this week, and it just feels like he's taking over. I know Cameron Braid's back, but I think Otten's earned it, and Brady loves his tight end, so I don't mind that as a kind of using that for a double stack, and that makes it real cheap, and you can kind of load up all around. But but I just wanted to point out we got a special guest in chat. We have David Montgomery's brother in chat here, Doug Montgomery, and he's got a big season long question today. So I was going to throw it to Bobby, help him out for the season long. He wants to know if he should go with Ramondre Stevenson or Pacheco in a half-point PPR.
Ramondre Stevenson for me.
Yeah, I agree. I do the same. And I want to wish everyone good luck out there in their season. I know you've leaned on Bobby and I to answer those questions all season long. We finally made it to the promised land, so take it home. Take it home.
Good stuff. I had a tough year for season long this year, but I got one team going into the playoffs. Unfortunately, Kyler Murray was my quarterback and Marcus Mariota was my backup. So tough after rolling with Jameis Winston as the backup and then Matt Stafford as the backup, Marcus Mariota as the backup. We're running thin.
Every best ball team I have has Zach Wilson, and I lucked out that he's actually playing today. But
my top best ball team left is it's Daniel Jones and Geno Smith, and so fingers crossed that we get some big games from those two going.
Yeah, I have a lot of Daniel Jones too. Yeah.
But the payouts I got from some of my underdog best ball teams allowed me to do some drafts yesterday, and it got me to a lot of Justin Herbert and a lot of the Los Angeles Chargers. We're talking some DFS, but there's lots of other sports, lots of other websites out there to help you win some money, and we've got you covered at scoresandodds.com, your number one place for all things sports betting. Check it out for everything you need to make you a better sports bettor, including our new Parlay IQ tool now with FanDuel Sportsbook integration. Build your own optimized same-game parlays on data from thousands of simulated games. With the click of a button, you can bring that bet slip directly into the FanDuel Sportsbook. Kirkdiese, I know you're a betting guy. You throwing in any NFL bets today?
No, I just have the second half of a Wong tease that I made. I did my only NFL bet this weekend was a tease with Buffalo and Philly. So I need Philly to basically win by 2 points.
Should be able to get done. How about you, Bobby?
No betting, no betting, just strictly DFS for me today.
The problem is where it's not legal here. We got to drive to New Hampshire to put them in. It's going to be legal here, and for the Super Bowl, it's going to be starting up.
Not legal for myself either here in Canada, only Ontario, not where I am. But even if you're not sports betting, there's still other ways. In case you haven't heard of Stat Hero, it's a unique fantasy sports platform that allows users to compete and participate in head-to-head style contests where Stat Hero provides a lineup that you can have to beat with your own, as well as pick'em style contests. You should also check out the Big Dime League, a season-long leaderboard NFL contest with up to $50K in prizes. You can use this code all season long. Use promo code GRINDERS for a 50% deposit bonus up to $250 and jump in on all the action today. But let's get back to this DFS slate. Go through these QBs a little bit more, talk some stacks. I mentioned that I think I might actually get to a little less Joe Burrow just because the full stack isn't as cheap with him. That's something I love doing, is I pair 3 pass catchers with my QB, unless I'm running a running QB like Jalen Hurts. So when I play Patrick Mahomes today, I'm going to have Kelsey, I'm going to have Juju, I'm going to have Tony or somebody else with there in him. I want 3. Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields are probably the only group of these quarterbacks today that I'm not going to be kind of like full stacking here with. Somebody we didn't touch on that I think is actually interesting for tournaments, if you're playing a lot of lineups like I am today, I'm running 100 over on FanDuel. It's Ryan Tannehill. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's Ryan Tannehill. And that's because everybody's going to be playing a lot of Derrick Henry today, as am I. I'm going to be over the field on Derrick Henry. But we're getting about a 2% on Tannehill on FanDuel. He's 3% on DraftKings. While I will be overweight on Derrick Henry, I also want to get a little bit of a backup plan for in case he fails for some reason. The Chargers are terrible against the run, but they're probably going to be terrible against everything right now. They got Derwin James out for this one as well. If the touchdowns happen to be passed in, or if Ryan Tannehill happens to be the one running it in, I like getting to a little bit of him today for the sole purpose of everybody's playing Derrick Henry and Justin Herbert. I think it's really interesting to run Austin Eckler and Ryan Tannehill in this game, just in case it's a high-scoring game like everybody thinks, but in a different fashion. It's somebody else who scores the touchdowns. I was on the FanDuel Friday show with Dre earlier this week. He talked about mixing in a little bit of Mac Jones and large field stuff, but I think mainly where I'm sticking, it's Justin Herbert number 1 for me, Jalen Hurts number 2, Fields 3, Mahomes 4, Dak Prescott 5. That's kind of how I'm prioritizing things while sprinkling in a little bit of Tannehill. Bobby, are there any stacks or QBs we didn't touch on before we switch things over to the positions, the skill positions?
I think people are going to like Mac Jones. They're going up against the Raiders. The Raiders passed. He hasn't been great all season. His receivers are cheap. You're taking Parker out of the mix. Jacoby Myers becomes relevant. Nelson Aguilar. Run back, Josh Jacobs. I think that makes sense if you're trying to go cheap. I feel like people are trying to make the Zach Wilson stack work. Elijah Moore was someone who was grading out well for me earlier in the week. Not so much now. Really no chemistry at all with Zach Wilson, but Garrett Wilson's at 6K. I think he's perfectly fine. I just don't know if I would be looking to run any of these Detroit guys back. The Jets-Detroit game just seems like a hard situation for me if you're going on the lower end, especially with the higher totals and the QBs we have on the slate. I'm with you. I'm on the Herbert train and GPPs. I don't hate Mahomes. I really like Mahomes, actually. I like Mahomes to Kelsey. And I think that like Chris Moore is someone who's obviously going to be a run back that they're so condensed at wide receiver. He's going to be the popular run back. But the wide receiver that's kind of been the third wide receiver over the last 2 weeks is Amari Rodgers, 27% of the snaps 2 weeks ago, and then 55 last week. He's slowly gaining on Dorsett. I think he's a good large field GPP play that I'm going to have in my player pool a little bit. They're playing 4 tight ends, so it's hard to parse through their tight ends, but you could always like Akins is someone I think who was in play as a run back. And then at the running back position, JSU mentioned on our show on Friday night, Dare Ogunbowale. I don't mind.
Ogunbowale.
Yeah. I think he's a good, like at 4.7, I could take a shot on him in larger field stuff. Rex as well. I just think a lot of people like Pacheco and McKinnon, people are going to try to make it work. Just play Kelsey. They run so much of the goal line through Kelsey. I think Kelsey personally is the best play, GPP play on the slate. He's going to be someone I'm trying to get a ton of, just because I think people will go other places because of his price. And it would just, at the tight end position, it's so thin, just paying up as a differentiated construction.
Swapping to the running back position here, I want to touch on Dare specifically because you mentioned him on DraftKings today, and I think he's a phenomenal salary-saving option for tournaments and on FanDuel as well, where he's $5K. It's not often you find a cheapie like that that's almost the same price, FanDuel and DraftKings. Like so often, if there's a $5K salary saver on DraftKings, they're like on FanDuel, they're like $3K on DraftKings. One of the reasons I liked Jameson Williams last week on FanDuel was, even though I didn't think he was going to get a lot of touches, got a little lucky there, but I did think they were going to have some specific plays for him, and he was 44 on DK, 45 on FanDuel. And Dare is one of those guys for me for Houston that I think could be heavily involved, not picking up much ownership on FanDuel, and is a nice salary saving option as well, because we don't have as much value as we kind of thought we could have. Ramondre Stevenson questionable. He missed last game. We kind of thought he could be out, opening up the door for Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong. Nope. Ramondre Stevenson's going to be playing today. We thought we might have some Cincinnati value with their receivers. Nope. Now their receivers are going to be in here as well. Kirkdiese, what are you kind of looking at as we pivot to the next position here? Are you looking for like stay in the mid-range to stack this week, or are there any specific values that you think are going to allow you to get to the Derrick Henrys, Austin Eckler's, make a stars and scrubsy approach today?
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of Derrick Henry because of the Chargers game stack that I'm doing, but and I do have to like pick a little bit of value at the receiver end, but like from a running back standpoint, let's talk about Kamara. He's going to be massive chalk, but like, is this guy hurt? I don't know. So, first of all, it's a great matchup against Atlanta, 28th DVOA versus the run. Falcons allow the 7th most rushing yards total this season. They're top 10 in rushing TDs allowed. We know this is a good matchup. He's been averaging 17 and a half touches, which is like kind of fine. But the problem is he hasn't gotten the red zone work, right? Like he only has 3 touchdowns on the season, and I think they were all in one freaking game when I faded him, because I remember that people had him on Yahoo. And then the crazy thing is that in their last game he only got 59% of the snaps to Ingram's 42%, and they were using Ingram on third down passing plays, which was like crazy to me. So I was like, is he injured? He has to be injured, or else this is just like complete incompetence. But, so we'll see. Today's the spot, and then you look at him too. Over the last 5 games, he only has 1 game where he's even broken over 10 fantasy points at 12.9, and everything else has been awful. 5, 9, 7. I mean, this guy's been a complete bust this year, but like now Ingram's out. The matchup is great. The only thing you worry about is Taysom Hill, vulturing, but I think we got to play him because you just got to bet on his talent and then the spot and hope he's okay. But I don't know. I'd like your guys' thoughts.
I love Taysom Hill today for tournaments. Like Taysom Hill is one of my favorite tight ends for tournaments today, but sticking with Alvin Kamara and kind of the optimal approach at running back, I think for cash, he is somebody that I'd be putting in there. Like, I think I'd be trying to run Henry and Kamara in cash today. But in tournaments, like, I'll probably be trying to get even to a little underweight on Kamara today. And like, even though he's kind of projected from a value standpoint to be just as good of an option as Derrick Henry today. Derrick Henry will be somebody I'll be heavily over the field on, whereas Alvin Kamara, if Hurts isn't my quarterback, I think I'd just rather play Miles Sanders. And I really like James Conner in that same range today, so I'm probably going to be getting underweight on him for tournaments. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, for me in cash, I think he's a stone cold lock. In tournaments, I think I'd like to get to Henry. I'd like to get to Jacobs. I think the way you said to play him, either Kamara, either at the field or a little below, is exactly the way like I would play him as well. There's question marks there, right? The other side of this is he is priced at 6,800. He's too cheap for the position. These running backs that have been priced this way all season long have gone off. So you're not full just by any means. If you're playing multiple teams, have a Kamara team in there. If you're playing 3, I'd have at least 1.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is this should we just jam Ramondre in?
I don't know.
Now with the Q tag, I mean, everybody, we've been jamming him all season, waiting, but now he's got the Q tag. No one's going to want to play him. He's kind of fallen out of favor.
Yeah. So JJ Taylor was ruled out.
Yeah, they didn't call him up. Yeah,
they didn't call him up. So I think the expectation is that Ramondre will. I like this Ramondre call. I think Ramondre is probably the pivot at 7K in tournaments. Connor's right there as well too. Connor's seeing all of the workload in that Arizona offense. Denver got hit by Jerick McKinnon last week. Not that Connor is McKinnon, but it was more in the passing game. So maybe if Connor's seeing those touches, he's a strong pivot as well, which I think he will see. Like he saw it last week versus the Patriots. That's how he basically got there, was through the passing game early on.
There are just so many nice options, too, for cheap at running back on DraftKings today. Like, if you look at the 6K range, Montgomery and Elliott, I think, are both interesting for tournaments, but I'm looking more so like Travis Etienne, Cordero Patterson, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift. These are all guys I really like for tournaments today.
Well, you didn't hit on my favorite.
And none of them are coming in very highly owned. You like Najee?
I like Miles Sanders.
Oh, yeah, I touched on him last time. I said I might like Miles Sanders better than Alvin Kamara in tournaments.
Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry.
If I'm not playing Jalen Hurts, I want to get to a lot of Sanders. But, I think some of these other guys, nobody's going to be getting to DeAndre Swift today. Isaiah Pacheco, sub 10%. I think these are very high upside guys that not many people are getting to today.
Yeah, Pacheco makes the most sense. It's just, it's like every time I play a Kansas City running back, although I mean, God, I wish I played McKinnon last week, but
I played McKinnon literally every week until last week that I ever made.
That's how it works. I mean, Pacheco makes the most sense, but then it's like every time you just realize after when they put up a average game, you're like, I just played a running back on a passing team. It's like every time, no matter what the spread, no matter what, it just somehow they get vultured. But Pacheco, I mean, this is Houston. This should be a cupcake city to just feed it. But I think he might get steamed a little bit today because I mean everybody wants to play him, right? I'm sure. Everyone thinks that's the sneaky play, right? Pacheco.
It's just for that.
I don't think so. The reason that everyone thinks he's a sneaky play makes me just like Kelce even more, right? Just because so much what they do is through Kelce. I don't know.
That's a great point, and they do have Kadarius Toney back as well here, which that's somebody that was getting very heavily involved in the offense before. But when it comes down to it, they get close to that end zone. It's always going to be Travis Kelce getting at least one look in the red zone every time they get down there, probably more than that. And so I definitely like that call.
So there's Kelce's price and the Pacheco situation that people want to make is 2 knocks on why Kelce should be, I don't know, lesser owned in tournaments versus these other guys. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, well, here's the problem, right? When you pull it in the optimizer to run your Mahomes stack, it's going to give you a lot of Kelce. right? Because it's just like he's the upside guy. So I think he's gonna be played. But like everyone like me, I think there's a ton of people who are thinking like me. It's like, why use Travis Kelce if this game's out of hand? Like, you know what I mean? So like my natural instinct is to not want to play Kelce in this spot today, which is going to what you're saying to just play Kelce even more.
Yeah,
but
I think
optimizers will feed him in.
I think a very interesting tournament idea is to just play a lot of Kelce in lineups that don't have Mahomes. What if this is a blowout? What if like they handle them easily? Pacheco gets one, McKinnon gets one. Mahomes throws 2 or 3 touchdown passes, which is a solid game, not enough to win the slate, but they're all to Kelce.
Very possible.
Like, we've seen him do many times this year.
It's just like George Kittle the other night. It's like people don't want to tackle these guys. Do you know what I mean? Like they just like it. They're too big, and they can just erupt. And like it takes like 2 plays, and they're there.
Before we pivot off of the running back position, I want to touch specifically kind of where we started with Houston, because we got people asking in chat, are we playing Rex Burkhead today? We talked about liking Dare Ogunbowale. Where is both of your leans on that situation? How many lineups would you have to be playing before you got each of them in there? I'll throw it to you first, Bobby.
Yeah, I think that they're both in play if you're playing 150. For me, like I said, like I think Dare's my favorite. Also, think like I at the top of the show, Amari Rodgers, he's gonna be the guy. Like in terms of wide receiver, it's gonna be Chris Moore that everyone goes to. But I think that Amari Rodgers, because the season's coming to a close, they're gonna give him his snaps are trending up. They're going to give him the opportunity to upseat Philip Dorsett. Like, why do they need to play Philip Dorsett, right? He had a touchdown last week. He had 4 catches, showed more than what he'd shown previously in Green Bay. Like, I don't mind him as a 3K punt, 3-2. There are a lot of receivers people are going. Well, there were a lot of receivers prior to Jacoby Myers being ruled in from the Patriots. I liked him as a pivot prior to even this situation, like getting that news. So he's someone that I don't think anyone's talking about, that the snaps are going to take an uptick and you can take a shot on him in tournaments. My favorite of Ogunbowale and Burkhead would be Ogunbowale. I just think he's the guy at 4.7. And I could play him in one of my 3 teams, or I don't really, if he hits my team, he hits my team, you know.
He'll be somebody that I think I'll be playing a decent amount of, and Burkhead would only be very large field MME type stuff for me. I think it's interesting to note on Amari Rodgers that Chris Moore and Philip Dorsett, they're both 29 years old. This is a lost season for Houston. They got a ton of injuries. Amari Rodgers, 23 years old. So the logic behind everything Bobby's saying kind of stands there. They're going to want to take a look at this guy, give him the snaps, see if he's going to be a piece for the future. Kirkdiese, how about you? How much Dare, how much Burkhead are you getting to today? And
I won't have any, but I'm not max entering, so if I was max entering, sure, why not? I don't know what to make, whether it's going to be Dare and Ogunbowale or Burkhead. I have no clue. And that's just being honest. I do think the play makes sense on Ogunbowale. I mean, he's a pass catching back. Burkhead is just on his way out. You know what I mean? So I would probably side with Ogunbowale, but personally, I'm not going to have any. What I need to do is am I a fish for playing Chris Moore today? I just want to know that.
No, I don't think so at all. I think Chris Moore is a good play. I'm just talking about, like, they're so condensed. Like, you can play any of these guys. I just think that, like, in larger field stuff or people that are 150 maxing, they're going to go to Dorsett. And I think Amari is just an interesting kind of pivot. Chris Moore at 4.2 is going to be the most popular, I would imagine.
He's going to be chalk.
It's
going to be disgusting. Like, I thought Nico Collins was the worst chalk play of the year, and it got there. But, like,
that's what I'm afraid of, is, like,
that's why I'm saying, am I a fish?
Yeah. I don't think everyone's going to play him. Like, it makes sense. I just think that a nice pivot is Amari.
Let's talk about, they're talking about in chat. Because this is another guy I've been considering. because like it looks like Jacoby Myers is going to be back. So like this Pats, I was going to play Thornton, and I still might play him for 3K, but I'm not sure how much he's going to be on the field now. But Shaheed of the Saints, I mean, this guy's looked ridiculous. Just, eye test watching him play recently. Cheap option. I know, Bob, you love Olave today, though, right?
I like Shaheed, too. Like, I prefer Shaheed to those Patriots guys. Thornton, I think he was better if Jacoby was out because he's going to play more in the slot. Now I don't think we're going to see him in the slot. So, yeah, for me, it would be I like the Shaheed call a good bit. I did like Olave. I thought he was interesting if you're trying to leverage Kamara. I'm just worried about like what with the Saints defense, they could have some turnovers there, and then they don't really need to throw the ball. Atlanta doesn't push back. Maybe Olave's a better play on an FD. I don't know. I liked Olave, but my new favorite play I think is definitely Kelsey.
I'm out on these Patriots guys with Jacoby Myers expected to be back. Like, he's just kind of the clear number one guy when he plays, and then when he doesn't, it gets spread out to Bourne, to Aguilar, to Thornton. And so I like a little bit of Myers today. I'm going to get to a little bit of Shaheed today. But, like, this is probably the tightest my receiver pool has been kind of all season long, which is weird. I expected to get a lot of New England receivers. I expected to get a lot of Cincinnati receivers. Now that we're getting all these healthy guys back, I think I'm really going to have a much tighter pool than I've had most of the season. Speaking of somewhat of a fish play, now let me, because you were asking it like that, Kirkdiese, and I want to preface this by saying I do not think this is a fish play, but I've heard people asking that throughout the industry, throughout the week. We have a core tag, and Kirkdiese's guy Chop has a tag on this one as well. What do we think about Jerry Jeudy? No Cortland Sutton. The offense has been trash, but I mean, is it point chasing because last week he went crazy? Or is this literally just the only good player in this offense and therefore is going to get a ton of opportunity to make some plays?
Yes, but there's one wrinkle. You have a new quarterback in Brett Rippon, who is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So I would worry about accuracy and throwing deep and even getting the ball off with them. But the play still makes a lot of sense if you think that this guy can connect with him.
What about you, Bobby? You getting any Jeudy today?
I understand the play, right? He only did see like 20% of the target share last week. So I don't know if, like with Brett Rippon, he was super efficient. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the side of Kirkdiese. I don't think I need to play much Jeudy.
I feel like I'll get to a little bit of Jeudy today. In the lineups, I also have James Conner, but where my priorities land at the receiving position today is outside of the pay-ups like Jamar Chase and Devontae Adams, who I love, AJ Brown in my Hurt stacks and CD Lamb in my Dak stacks. I'm focusing on the Chargers guys, being Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I really like Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk are two guys I'm very interested in getting to in bunches today. But for the most part, like, I'm really just going to be stacking up with my QBs. I feel like the only people I'm really going to be targeting outside of stacks heavily is making sure I get a Charger. Just like making sure I get an Eckler, Williams, or a Keenan Allen in most of my lineups today. Who are, Kirkdiese, who are your outside of stack priorities today? Just like these singular players at receivers that you want to make sure you're getting to.
Well, I got the chat going. We're all people who watch this show on Sundays know that I've kind of a Drake the Snake London stan a little bit. It's been a shame him having to play with Mariota, but we've got a chance today with Desmond Ridder. There's rumors they have really good chemistry together in practice, and so I'm expecting them to feed him. And like everyone's like kind of forgotten about him. It's in the dome. Let's go. So 4,700. I think he's a good play. I also like Jacoby Myers. Like you said, he's the clear number one Pats receiver when he plays. This is a great matchup. We saw Baker Mayfield have success against this defense, right? Like, it wouldn't be crazy for Mac to step up. Mac sucks. As a Pats fan, I'll be the first to say it. But today's a good spot for him, so I can get there. I'm all over this like mid range, and okay. So I've called correctly 2 games this season. Zay Jones, both when he went off, and at this today, I'm not calling. I don't feel as confident in him, but I've got house money to play with, so I'm going back to Zay Jones today, and he's cheap. So I'm kind of like, that's what's helping me build is I need someone in that 4,700 range, somewhere around there. And so Drake London, Jacoby Myers, Zay Jones, those are my guys in that mid range or kind of mid low range.
Players that do a lot for you on DraftKings that don't just quite fill the same need on FanDuel with Jacoby Myers 6.4K, Drake London 6.3, Zay Jones 6.3. Don't quite hit the salary savings the same way as the mid 4K does on DK. How about you, Bobby? Before we start pivoting over to the other positions here, like tight end, who obviously I know you're feeling Kelsey today, but who are the receivers, whether it be in a sneaky ones in a stack or just that you're looking to play on their own today, outside of course, Amari Rodgers?
Yeah, the Amari Rodgers isn't. I'm not that strong on Amari, but I do think
you're locking in Amari Rodgers into 100% of your lineups today.
No, yeah, for me, like I think you could definitely. I think someone who's going to go overlooked in that Chargers game is Joshua Palmer. Mike Williams had a big game last week. So did Keenan. Palmer kind of slides into the third slot. I think he makes sense. Mike Evans at 6,200 is going to come around, and I think it's going to be this week. So he's someone I really like in tournaments. Jamar Chase on the other side in that game. Like you never go wrong playing Chase. Bucks are kind of a pass funnel. Outside of that, like I think Jacoby's fine. Chris Moore is fine. Like just the values. I like the Drake London call. Kurt, if they have good rapport, and that's the report out from Atlanta, like I don't mind taking a shot at that price.
I made that up. That was like a tout trick I did that made it sound like I knew what I was talking about. But
did you really? No, you didn't.
What about Michael Gallup? Any Michael Gallup love 4,500?
I do. I have a Dak double. I got a Dak double stack. I mean, I love CeeDee Lamb.
You love Dak. You're a big Dak guy.
Dak stinks. No, I love these Jags games every week, except I got off of it last week.
Yeah, the 1 week last week. I knew the crazy thing about it was you called Zay and Ingram on the show, and they were in the winner, and you didn't play them.
I know, because I don't have time to like max enter when I go on these shows today, because I take forever with what my process.
I'm playing 100, and not only am I on the GrindersLive today, but I just picked up hopping in for crunch time with Kristi, so I'm gonna be.
He has to deal with
chaotic.
You're not understanding this though, TJ. He has so many rainmakers that he's just going in.
Yes, that's true. I have rainmakers to do, and then I have to do. I gotta focus on my Yahoo because that's where the big money's on. And then
we sacrifice our lineups to bring you this elite top tier content. We got Erik coming on next with the GPP Final Takes show. We got myself, Dre, and Luuch breaking you down through crunch time. We got 400 people watching. Only 45 people have hit the like button. So let me help you out. Pro tip, if you're watching on your phone, I got my nice phone here. Iron Man background. Got the YouTube up here. It's hard to hit the like button on your phone.
Because is Iron Man your favorite Marvel superhero, you would say?
No, but it was the only one I could get that fit a phone this big. And so I do like Iron Man in the MCU, but no, I'm a Spider-Man guy. And then my next favorite's actually Silver Surfer for Marvel.
Is anybody in the RG Discord right now? Anyone over there? I just wanted I could show the TJ missing his chair video.
That is great. I don't know how that hasn't made its way onto Twitter yet, because that was an all-timer. But like I was saying, look, we got the YouTube chat here. You can't hit the like button because the chat's up.
I could tweet it.
It's difficult. So what you got to do is you got to hit this little X on the chat here. It drops it for us, and it allows you to go over, hit the like button. We got 400 people watching, and
I think we should talk about 2 running backs, Donovan Knight and Latavius Murray, because those guys seem like Latavius Murray seems like the math play, and that he's going to be lower owned. Like maybe we can kind of, would you consider him at all, or it's Lat Murray? We're not playing him in 2022.
I don't think I'm going to be playing Latavius Murray or Donovan Knight tonight. I think Michael Carter is going to come in, and everyone is going to come back here. Rob, what do you mean mention you? I wasn't mentioning people. I was mentioning the people who are on the show next. And are you on GPP Final Takes? I didn't realize that. I didn't look. I was just mentioning Chaos because I'm subbing in for Crunch Time. That's the only reason I knew who was on Crunch Time. So I'm sorry, Rob. Rob's going to be on the GPP Final Takes show with Erik. I know Erik hosts it, and then I knew the other one because I subbed on. So
what's your Twitter handle?
TJ_Zwarych 5. Once we get 100 likes, Kirkdiese is going to post the video of me falling out of our chair, but not until then. We're at 76 right now. So if you want to see a silly video of me falling out of my chair on Crunch Time, make sure you hit the like button, get us up to 100 there, because it's necessary. It's going to have to be done. And Rob, I'm still mad at you for not liking Black Panther Wakanda.
I got it all teed up, ready to go.
All teed up and ready to go. We need 24 more likes, and then we're tweeting out a video of me falling on my butt, hurting myself, straining my neck, embarrassing. It was all real good. Donovan Knight, Latavius Murray, Kirkdiese, you getting to any of these guys? I don't think I'm going to be getting to them today.
I mean, yes, unfortunately. So I'm considering them because I don't know. I mean,
you kind of have to consider them.
Yeah, it's the price. So it's a good match against Detroit. Detroit's a little bit better against the run than we anticipated, but still.
This is something Dre and I have been talking about lately. Detroit's been good on defense the last few weeks.
Yeah, they have been. And they're a good defense play today. I think Bobby picked them today for his defensive segment. Not JSU. Yeah. Bobby called it, not JSU. Anyways, Bam, I think Bam Knight's good. The problem is
I think he is too.
They love to do that committee approach, so it's a little worrisome. But I do like Bam Knight. Latavius is it just feels like Latavius is going to get workload, and Arizona defense has just been so bad. So they're going to pound it with him, but it just they should be able to stop him because it's with Rippon at quarterback. And not many, only really one healthy, good wide receiver and Judy. It should be. I don't know. I'm considering them both. Bam, I prefer Bam, but I will play them, but I will be very scared with those lineups.
9 more likes, and we're dropped the video of me dropping to my doom, missing my chair. 69 more likes, and Bobby will be locking in Amari Rodgers into 100% of his lineups. Let's pivot over to tight end here because we did have a question on it right off the bat here. Darren Waller back off the IR, priced real cheaply, not Darren Waller's usual price. Are we interested in him in tournaments today? I know Kelsey is your number one guy, Bobby, but who else are you liking at tight end outside of him?
Yeah, so at tight end, I think you can consider Waller. Renfro, too, at 3.8, just another guy who's back at the wide receiver position. Cole Kmet, I don't mind him, 4K. Like I said, Kelsey's probably my favorite. Dalton Schultz is someone who I think is going to get played, but I think for good reason. He's my favorite guy to play in Dak stacks. I know everyone loves CD, but I don't know. Getting to Schultz, I just feel like he's the security blanket. Not chasing Evan Ingram. Don't think I'll be there today. Greg Dulcich, I think, is someone who's in play just because they have no one. So it just targets have to go somewhere, and he's a pass catching tight end. Hunter Henry at 3.3. You're taking Parker out. So there's an excess. There's more targets in the Patriots passing situation. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there Pat Freiermuth is someone I think versus Carolina you can make a case for as well. Tight end once again is pretty. Chigo Okongwu, I think, is going to be a chalkier play, and I think in those Herbert stacks, he's like when they're going to get expensive if you double Mike and you double Allen or get Eckler in there somehow. So Chig would be the run back there. I'd still obviously try to get lineups with Henry as a run back, but Chig makes it a little easier when stacking up that Tennessee and Chargers game.
Before I throw it to Kirkdiese here, there is a specific thing I want to talk about with regards to the Bam Knight thing that we mentioned before. I said I'm not playing him, but I'm playing on FanDuel exclusively today. Bam Knight's price on DraftKings, he's right in between Josh Kelly, Jerick McKinnon, Rashad White, Fournette, P. Ryan. I think he's a very good play over there. 7-2 on FanDuel, where he's priced up by Kamara and Pacheco and James Conner. That's where I don't think I'm going to be getting to him. And where we love Travis Kelce on DraftKings, I think I like him even more on FanDuel just because 8K is Kelce on FanDuel. The next is Dalton Schultz at 65. What is it on DraftKings? It's 7.8K Kelce. And the next we got Dalton Schultz and Freiermuth at 4.5, 4.4. So these cheaper tight ends just give you so much salary saving ability on DraftKings, whereas they don't really on FanDuel. So I think he's an even better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, which is crazy because he's picking up less ownership over there today. Sorry, Bobby, were there a couple others you like before I cut you off there?
No. That's pretty much it.
Kirkdiese.
Right. Did we get the likes? Did we get the likes?
We are at 98 likes. So talk to us about tight end. We're going to get a few more people hitting the like button, and then you'll be able to drop that video there.
I like Schultz. Because I like that game environment. I like Ingram, but it just feels so chasey to me that I probably won't play him. My favorite is probably Cole Kmet, and then I like Chig as well. Chig's going to be in my stacks because, like Bobby said, it just makes it easier to play, and I'm going to be playing the high, kind of smaller field. I mean, it's reasonable, pretty big, some big field, but not like the super large field. So you can play some chalk there in my smaller field, high dollar stuff. So I'm going to play Chig in those game stacks, which is going to be my main lineup. But those are my guys.
My low tier, Chig Okongwu, Gerald Everett are my two favorites. Mid tier, I really like getting to Taysom Hill in tournaments today on FanDuel at the tight end position. I think with a lot of people going to Kamara, he makes for one of the most interesting tight end plays today. And then getting to a ton of Travis Kelce as well. We are at over 100 likes, so the video is free to hit the internet, make fun of me. We get
follow me at Kirkdiese, or just go there and look at Kirkdiese. I'm sending it out now. If you haven't seen this was a good fun moment last week.
I'll retweet it as soon as we're out here. It was pretty hilarious. I reached up to grab something. I came down. This rolling chair no longer was there. I agree with Chris Kirkwood talking in chat. I don't know why I switch your name every time I talk about you. It's just it always is something different in my head. But I agree. Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, it's one or the other for me. I like pairing Everett with Justin Herbert as well. And Travis Etienne for flex on DK. I don't mind Etienne one bit today. But I do like getting to him best as a run back with some of my Dallas players. We got to get out of here and make room for Erik and Rob on the next show. But before we do so, Bobby, talk to me about defenses today. We're going to have some mega chalk with the Denver Broncos. FanDuel, that we're projecting for like 27% Broncos because they are cheap. And then we're projecting that on DraftKings as well here. So are you just playing them in cash and full fading them in tournaments? How you?
I think you're playing them in cash. I'm probably playing them in tournaments too. I know there's a big debate on whether you should play the cash game defense in tournaments. I don't know. I feel like I'll be under the field though. The Lions, I think, are good versus Zach Wilson, just because he's Zach Wilson. The Patriots at 2.8, I don't mind versus Derek Carr. You get to figure like Belichick probably knows McDaniel's offense pretty well, so I think that benefits him. The Jaguars at 2,400 versus Kirk's guy, Dak Prescott. Dak just underwhelms for me. I just don't think he's good at football, so I don't mind running a defense at him. And then outside of that, maybe paying up for the Chiefs at 4K if you like their running backs and correlating it that way. It's pretty much my thoughts on defense.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like getting to some Chiefs. I like getting to some Carolina Panthers, Detroit Lions, New York Jets, and then who was the other team I was looking at here? And the Steelers as well as another team I'm looking to get to a lot. Maybe even a little New Orleans Saints. I was trying to wait to see if we get any Marshawn Lattimore news, because that does impact how much I like Drake London and how much I like the Saints defense today, because he is a big difference maker at the cornerback position. Kirkdiese, who do you like a defense today?
I don't really care about defense. I do care enough that it's just too hard to play. I mean, you know who I keep going to in lineups that I'm not playing my the Cowboys Jags. I keep going to the Jags at 2,400 today. No one's going to play them. And then I guess the chalk is probably going to be the Broncos. I'm fine with that too, just because Colt McCoy and the defense is decent. Other than that, I don't know. I can't. People are like touting that just because the cheap play any defense in playing the Titans. I can't play that. They're missing a lot of key players for this game too, and I think that there's going to be a lot of points scored from the Chargers here. So I guess if I have money to pay up, I'm with the Lions. I'll back that Bobby take. I'm on board there. But yeah, those are who I've been looking at.
There is who's the Lions' first round pick that was questionable? Is he in?
Jameson Williams?
He's on the D line. No. Oh. I would make sure he was in. I forget.
Hey, Aiden?
Yeah. Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Is he in? He had a Q tag.
He was really good. Hutchinson was real good last week. But we thank you. Make sure you keep an eye on that one. Keep a Hutchinson. Yeah, they're saying it in the chats. Make sure he's in for this one to like the Lions. Thanks to everyone who joining us in chat. We got more good content coming for you here. We got Rob and Erik talking some GPP takes up next. We got 420 people watching. Hit the like button for us. Make sure you're following. Hit the notification bell. Get up to 150 likes. Then Bobby's going to be locking Amari Rodgers into all of his lineups. We get up to 200 before crunch time, then I will consider falling out of my chair again, because I'm back for crunch time with Luch and Andre later. So on behalf of myself and Kirkdiese, our awesome producer Steve, thanks so much for tuning in to GrindersLive. Dean will be back with you next week. It's not going to be me. Don't you worry about that. And we got the GPP Takes crew coming up next. Peace.
Good luck.
What is going on, Grinders? It's Chief, and we're talking Thrive Fantasy, and we're going to be getting in on these props this week. It's week 15. We've got 2 props for you to get to that 3.6x. Is it more? Is it less? Let's find out. So we've got 2 interesting pieces of props here where we've got Deontay Johnson sitting at 45.5 receiving yards. But folks, I think the key piece of news here, Mitchell Trubisky will be a quarterback, and I don't care how you feel about his skill level. What we know is Deontay Johnson is going to be funneled and peppered with targets. I think he gets this number just on volume alone. 45.5 for taking over. Folks, over the past few weeks, Michael Gallup has been getting just as many targets as CeeDee Lamb. I think Michael Gallup can actually pick this up. If he connects on one of these deep balls, he's over with ease. Love Michael Gallup here at 36.5 receiving yards. All right, folks, we've been talking Thrive Fantasy week 15. I'll see you back here next week for week 16.
Great start to the show. Eric's muted. Welcome in everybody to GPP Takes.
What's going on, StreamYard? I've done 1,000 of these shows on StreamYard. It unmutes you automatically when the intro stops, but not today. But maybe that's a good sign. It's a contrarian start to a GPP show here in week 15. I am, excuse me, as always, your host, Erik Beimfohr. You can find me on Twitter at Erik Beimfohr. This week I am joined by my good friend Rob Coakley at KingCoakley on Twitter. And if you have not watched the show, little quick housekeeping before we get going. Sorry, got a little sore throat this morning. It's going around, I hear. Rob had it relatively recently, I know, so bear with me. But what we try to do here every single week is not your kind of typical DFS tournament show, right? We're not necessarily going game by game. We're not necessarily going position by position. We're going to kind of bounce around to all the most critical tournament decision points, right? Sometimes that's just like one key player who's super chalky, one stack that's super chalky. Last week, it was kind of one game, the Vikings and the Lions. This week, it's a little different. I kind of like this slate because while it's only 10 games, there's a lot of low totals and a lot of really gross games. I didn't expect to be talking about Brett Rippon versus Colt McCoy in week 15, but I think that there's actually a lot of different fun ways that you can go in tournaments, whether it be some teams everybody's scared away from because they expect them to win by, 40 points, or some teams that have some quarterback change. A lot of different ways you can go on the slate. So I'm pretty excited for this one. Rob, what's kind of your initial take from a macro perspective about week 15?
Well, you bring up like the best point ever. People are like, I can't play that team because they're going to win by 40. Yeah, they're going to score 40 points. Like, they got to score them somehow, right? Like, and that take always like blows my mind. It's like they're going to be up so much. It's like, yeah, they got to get up though. Like, they have to score 5-6 touchdowns. How are they going to do it? Mahomes can throw for 6 touchdowns in 3 quarters today. It's definitely a possibility. And then they rest him. He still gets his MVP consideration, right? Narrative Street starts. We're going to be talking about it with Justin Jefferson the rest of the year, trying to get that 2,000 yards. Are they just going to pepper him with targets? Why can't Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes be just let off the leash to do whatever they want to do to get this MVP vote? So yeah, it's definitely an interesting slate for today.
I love that. I think we should start there in that is exactly what happens almost all the time. The rare slate will get on here and talk about like, oh, everybody's going to play this team. They're not going to play the running back or whatever because they're going to score a bunch of points, like you said, but they could get out to a huge lead and shut it down. But what mostly happens is what we have today, in particular with 2 teams. You probably, if you're playing DFS today, you probably already knew the 2 teams we're talking about. But with the Eagles and the Chiefs playing the Texans and the Eagles playing the Bears. 2 of, if not the 2 best offenses in the league, basically, against the 2 worst defenses in the league. They're just going to essentially name their score, right? And so it's funny when we have the slate is littered with like 37-point totals. I just talked about there's a game with Brett Rippon against Colt McCoy. There's disaster everywhere. You can barely even play players on like a Tom Brady-led offense because there's so many dusty offenses. And we have 2 of them that we can almost guarantee are going to score at least, 35? Like, if these teams don't score 35, I think almost everyone will be stunned. Let's call it 30. So you're guaranteeing 4 touchdowns from these offenses. And yes, obviously people are not, ignoring Jalen Hurts. People are not ignoring, pieces of those offenses, but people are not planning for the scenario, frankly, that happened last week for the Eagles. The perfect scenario is that they score 50 or whatever, like they did last week, and the other offense does enough to keep pushing them, right? So they just keep, right? It's another bomb to A.J. Brown. It's another 40-yard Miles Sanders touchdown run until like the last series of the game. Scoring points is the most, correlated thing to fantasy points. Often your team scoring points, and those 2 teams to me are the 2 teams that I kind of want to hone in on. Not saying you have to play somebody from them on every single lineup, but I think they're going to be, relatively speaking, not necessarily low owned, but under owned for tournaments. Stacks, the running backs, everybody's going to be under owned outside of maybe Jalen Hurts. But like, I don't really care that much about, one singular Eagles ownership in this regard.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I agree with that completely. Chief. I want a Chief. I want an Eagle. I also want a Charger and a Cowboy if possible. Like that's what I'm looking at. And when you get to the Chiefs, yeah, Mahomes is expensive. Yeah, Travis Kelce is expensive. Every other Chief, like always, is free for the most part. Right. So if that's the way you want to go, you can get one of those free Chiefs, whether it be an MVS, whether it be, Juju's a little more money. But what about like let's think outside the box a little bit. What about like a Noah Gray? Like if you really want to, double stack Mahomes, you can double stack Mahomes with like MVS and Noah Gray or something like that. And yeah, Mahomes was expensive, but now you've just brought down that total price of that double stack. And you can do stuff like that. The tight end position's a little interesting today too. We'll get into that, but those are the 4 teams I'm looking for. Those are my 4 quarterbacks today. I only have those 4 in my player pool. And that's the way I'm looking. We did a look ahead show last Sunday night, and we're doing it again tonight. And the first thing I said to you was like, I'm probably only playing Hurts and Mahomes. I've added Herbert and Dak to that, but it just seems like smash spots. And I know people get nervous of blowout potential. I'm not nervous when it comes to the blowout potential. Give me
it's I got in trouble for this last week. One person was commenting about all the like what if scenarios that we run through, but I think that's kind of the whole point of, in particular, this, like with the Chiefs. I think people will still get to the Eagles again, like Jalen Hurts, as you see on your screen. Jalen Hurts and Mahomes are not, I don't think that those two guys are going to like run away in ownership. Herbert is the guy that, like you said, he's grown on you throughout the week. Dak has probably grown on you throughout the week. I think that's happening for everybody. It's like when you have that little concern, well, are the Chiefs really going to keep their foot on the gas in the second half? And you don't have that concern with Herbert. You don't have that concern with Dak. So I think for cheaper, people are willing to talk themselves down off of the Mahomes and Hurts plays. Again, they're not going to be 3%. We're not talking about low-owned Mahomes and Hurts, but I don't think their ownership is going to run away. And also because it's outside of Travis Kelce, like you said, nobody ever wants to play any other Chiefs. And I get it. It's not like you don't click those guys in and say, boom, it's not like, remember like 5,300 or 5K Garrett Wilson when he started emerging and Mike White's at quarterback. And it's like, okay, this dude's going to get 12 targets. He's really good. I feel so comfortable. But that comfortable feeling is why everyone else plays them, right? I love to play the Chiefs skill player roulette. I love to spin that roulette wheel. I'm totally down to see maybe this is MVS finally catches one of those long touchdowns. Maybe Sky Moore finally earned some more snaps, right? Hardman is not back, although Tony is playing. If you like to say, hey, maybe Tony's healthy and he's going to get 50% of the work and he's going to be a feature guy, or you can old reliable Juju, right? We've seen 1 or 2 really big Juju games throughout the course of this season. Then at running back, it's we'll talk about another guy who it's funny that people aren't doing this with. Last week everybody was concerned about the Chiefs and the Broncos, right? The Broncos suck, they can't push back, they don't have any good skill players, blah blah blah. Well, Jerick McKinnon broke that slate. Right? Like nobody said, oh, it's going to be a McKinnon game, right? The Broncos hadn't scored 20 points in like all year or like since like week 3 or something like that. And they pushed back, right? And made McKinnon into a really good, low price running back. I do agree like that. I think this is a little bit more of a Pacheco game, but like crazy stuff happens, dude. The Texans should have beat the Cowboys last week. Not like the Giants just pushed the Eagles, right? Scored 17 or something like that to make the Eagles keep the foot on the gas. The Texans were beating the Cowboys the whole game, right? I'm not expecting them to do that to the Chiefs, but if they put up 28 or something today, again, after doing it last week, I don't think anyone should be surprised. And all that means is Mahomes is going to throw for like 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. And at that point, I just want any of those guys, right? Kelce is, of course, a huge piece of that because of what he can just absolutely bury the tight end field. But I just think the Chiefs are like this tournament take that I wanted to lead off with because what you said is perfect. No one is willing to dive into the team that's probably going to score the most points on the slate. And I understand the nuance of the individual plays, but like it's almost that simple. You know what I mean? It's like they're going to score 45 points and no one's going to play them. Like that feels like a pretty good tournament play to me.
And it feels like it could be the Mahomes 6 touchdown game this season, like the one that he throws for 6, breaks the slate, and we're all like, how did we not see him throwing 6 touchdowns against the Houston Texans? And we're all upset. And I put my lights on green because we're going to print money playing Patrick Mahomes today.
I love it. So let's talk about a couple of these other quarterbacks. One thing I do want to, Mr. Richard asked about, I think I agree with you on what you were talking about with your quarterback pool. I think there's some sprinkles of some cheaper guys we can throw in there. You know, I probably can come up with a Galbrain guy or two, but Burrow would be the 5th guy that I think is definitely playable, especially with T back. I mean, he played really well again last week, even though T and Boyd basically didn't play at all. And the Bucks are just, the Bucks are a team, you know, it's an easy team to pick on, but I do think Burrow would be kind of in that, maybe at the end, more close to Dak in terms of kind of where I would rack and stack those quarterbacks. But I think I would put Burrow like on my list as well. You know, I'm not an MME guy, and I think Mr. Richards' question about Chase, T, or double stacking them, I think you can double stack them, but I actually prefer like kind of single stacking Burrow typically with Chase. I think he's just got a little bit more upside than T does, not because they're not good plays as a double stack. It's just kind of like a salary thing, right? Then if you want to bring back on your Bucks side, Chase, T, Godwin, or Evans or whatever is like all your salary, and I really can be a little bit more right. Like, why are we talking about the Chiefs thing? Well, Juju's cheap, MVS is cheap, everybody's cheap, and so you can get these other, people are mentioning like Kamara in the chat. Kamara's probably the best running back play on the slate to me. You want him. You want maybe Derrick Henry or whatever. You want Travis Kelce. You want really high upside options, or instead of having to like play the Texans wide receivers or the Bears wide receivers, right? You don't want to dumpster dive there. I think playing for the 4 touchdown chase game is how I like to play the Burrow one.
That's probably how I would do it too. The only reason I'm not including Burrow is when Herbert's only $200 more on DK, right? I want more shots on goal with Herbert just based on the matchup with Tennessee. I think Tennessee's missing 7 starters, if I remember correctly, off their defense.
Yep.
And they were already not good, spoiler alert, especially in the secondary. So it just feels like, again, I'm talking about a Mahomes explosion game. Herbert is definitely primed to have his best game of the year too.
Yeah. And the only thing I keep thinking about with Herbert is just like, he just feels like, so I do the expert survey I here at RotoGrinders every week. I obviously, as you see on your screen, do some tags in lineup HQ. I have Justin Herbert tagged, and as you see, 2 other people have Justin Herbert tagged. He feels like the guy that, like, if we flipped over the cards later and him and Mahomes' ownership flipped what you see on the screen here, or like Mahomes was like down here in this range, this Burrow Fields range, and Herbert was the highest known quarterback, I would not be the least bit surprised. He just feels like that guy that everybody's been like, well, if I'm going to spend on this elite guy, he might actually have the best matchup. We saw what Lawrence did to this defense last week, and I don't have those concerns, right? I can still get Mahomes. I can play Kelce, or I can play A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith or Miles Sanders or whatever, and I can still get exposure to those offenses. Whereas Herbert, everybody's like, it's all Herbert, right? Even their running back play, you're playing him for his pass catching. The Chargers are only going to throw to move the ball, basically. And so it's just one situation where I'm not saying I don't like Herbert because I have him tagged. He's one of my favorite plays. But as the week has gone on, it has just felt like more and more people are talking themselves into Herbert and less into Mahomes and Hurts, which is why I wanted to kind of lead there.
Just a quick nitpick. They changed your color on the expert tags halfway throughout the year. What are we doing, RotoGrinders?
I know.
I knew the light blue was Erik, and now it's purple, and now I don't know what to think anymore. I'm lost every time I look at it.
Well, can you? That is true. My high school colors were purple, as you saw in a high school picture I posted on Twitter a couple of weeks ago with another purple team. Lots of purple here down in Southern Illinois, but with these other quarterbacks, We can still talk a little bit about Charger stacks, right? Cowboy stacks, because I like them still. I'm not trying to ignore them. We'll dive into those. But at quarterback specifically, is there anybody else? I know you may not be necessarily including them, but there's a question Dan has on Desmond Ridder, who, we weren't really playing Marcus Mariota, but you can talk yourself into the mystery box of the new guy, right? That maybe it was actually Mariota holding back the offense. They will throw a little bit more. The Saints defense is not particularly good either. He has basically one pretty clear stacking partner in Drake London. Is there anybody like a Ridder or somebody cheaper that you would be interested in sprinkling, if you opened up your player pool a little bit?
I'm not going to do Ridder because I just think some of these top guys, one of them's going to pop. And it's just going to be too much of a deficit to overcome when we've talked about this before. Elite quarterbacks, when they start hitting that 35, 40 point range, it's great that you saved money at quarterback, but now you can't catch anybody because they played these higher price guys, right? The guy that scares me as always is Justin Fields. When you ignore Justin Fields, he can rip off a 30-point game and throw the ball 3 times. It's just who he is. And so that's terrifying. But yeah, I'm not going down to Ridder. I'm not going down to Brady. I see people talking about Brady as well. I get it to an extent. And I guess it depends on the tournament you're playing more so than anything. But specifically, if you're playing like a decent size single entry or MMEing, I'm not touching any of those lower price guys.
No, I think, if you want to gal brain a smidge of like Ridder, London, we'll get to Kamara as a pretty good play. I think Olave is a pretty good play. There's some good plays on the Saints side. If you wanted to gal brain a sprinkle of those, like something like that in tournaments, I think it is fine. Not crazy to say. I am significantly more interested in a rookie who I think stinks in his first start with no weapons over maybe the best quarterback of all time in Tom Brady, but I'm not even interested in Tom Brady stacks. If you want to get Bucks like production, right, and just play Godwin or Evans and be done with it. Play them as a bring back to your Burrow stacks, or just play. They can be standalone plays, right? Godwin's probably going to get 14 targets today. Now it's a lot of 3-yard catches. He's like a better Keenan Allen, but it's you can just get your exposure to the Bucks through those guys for me personally, and then get your real quarterback upside, right? Like you said, Mahomes, Hurts, Herbert, Dak, Burrow, Fields, etc. I'm going to throw my garbage can play of the week. I bet you could probably guess it from talking to me and how much I love the crappy teams. There's one quarterback playing the defense that everybody always plays quarterbacks against. All year, the chalk quarterback is against this defense. He's cheap, and he once upon a time was the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft. Zach Wilson thrust into duty because no doctor on the planet would clear Mike White. Is 5,100.
Please don't cancel us, Dan Buck. Please don't cancel us.
Here, just hear me out for a sprinkle of him. And if you're opening up your pool to these Ridder and other scrubs, I think you should have a sprinkle of Zach Wilson as well. He has put up fantasy points in the past in good matchups. Now, do not watch, because it's not going to be pretty, but he can run a little bit, and they have really good weapons. And just everybody's like, I don't even want to click the Jets now with Zach Wilson in there. And I agree, but it's like the inverse of what we talked about earlier. Everybody is like, nope, done. I can't do the Jets. I can't do the Jets, blah, 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 talking themselves out of them, when every other week we have to figure out pivots off of the team playing the Lions, right? Every single week the team playing the Lions is chalk, and we have to figure out if we're eating that chalk or not in our lineups. This week it's like people are absolutely willing to talk themselves off of the Jets, and even if you don't want to play Zach Wilson, I mean, Bam Knight is cheap. People aren't really, he's not runaway chalk. Garrett Wilson is 6K and gonna be popular, but I don't think he's gonna run away either. Like, look, his projection at 6K is not anything super special. People are bringing back their Jets projections because of Zach Wilson, even though the matchup's great. And so I just think a dabble. I just think a little dabble, because you're probably going to play some Garrett Wilson. You're going to play some Elijah Moore. You're going to play some Bam Knight, etc. So if you're going to play those guys, I think a little sprinkle is okay.
Zach Wilson threw 8 incompletions and 2 interceptions during that monologue you just gave, just so you know. Like, that's what happened. And that's
Only
why
eight-
you don't play Zach Wilson.
Only 8 incompletions. You're very bullish on him today.
Yeah, so I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
play Zach Wilson. I have pride. So
I look, it is my responsibility as the host of a GPP Gal Brain Final Takes show that if I don't mention at least a couple of if I'm just going to list you off, hey, dummy, just play Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's some sickos out there that don't care about punting off their $3, their $3 entry or whatever and want to have some fun. I think it's okay. Just to hit up any questions on quarterback, which, by the way, if you're watching, hey, thank you. Hit that like button for us really quick. We'd really appreciate it. If you're I'm trying to see any questions here that I missed. Oh, here's a good one. Trevor or Dak. If you have questions, please bring them. I'll try to hit absolutely as many as I can. We'll answer these kind of 1v1s, macro questions or whatever. Between these two guys, you mentioned you're playing Dak and you're not playing Lawrence. Is there any particular reason for no Lawrence if you're playing Dak, or what do you think about this kind of 1v1?
I don't hate Lawrence. It's a two. Again, we're looking at price differences, right? It's a $200 difference. I really like Dak today against the Jags defense. CeeDee Lamb is my favorite wide receiver on the board today. So that's why I'm going there. If I had a fifth, sixth quarterback that I had to play, it's probably Trevor Lawrence. He'd probably get there, but I'm trying to cut my quarterbacks down to 5 max generally, like when I play. And sometimes it is a cheaper one. Lawrence has made it in there quite a bit, and I'm not as scared of this Dallas defense as others are, just because I think that you can get a high pace up game if they play it right. But he's right there with Burrow for me in terms of like, I don't hate him, but he's just not going to make it into my player pool today with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's probably the good, cherry on top of the quarterback conversation is just that I do think that makes it interesting. Like, I know us talking about Ritter and Zach Wilson and some of this is the Super Galbrain tournament thing, but the fact that like a 6K Trevor Lawrence is like, you're like, can I really include him? And you're leaning more to no, kind of tells you about the strength of all those guys, right? Joe Burrow's playing the Bucs, got T Higgins back. He's been absolutely smashing, and we're like, do we even play any of him? So quarterback is really strong this week, which is surprising for a 10-game slate, which again a lot of kind of dusty games. Let's talk about running back a little bit, because obviously talking through quarterback will get us to a lot of stacks, but I think how you handle running back can also be a huge indicator of how you handle your stacks in a particular lineup, because we'll talk about the Chiefs guys, Eagles guys, etc. But I think there is a path, again, using them as a launching pad to saying, okay, I do have concerns, right, that the Eagles and the Chiefs pull away in the second half. And even if they don't pull away, their running backs are really affordable, right? It doesn't have to be all through the air by the Eagles or the Chiefs in terms of the production they put up. Their running backs are not, as you see here, this is again sorted by projected ownership. The two teams that are going to score the most points have, semi-committees in the backfield, but like most teams do. Most teams have committees in the backfield, and we got to scroll to the 10th, 12th highest owned running back to get to an Eagle or a Chief. So it's like, not to keep talking about Eagles and Chiefs, but they feel like these like best tournament plays again at the running back position. And then we'll talk through some of the chalk. But what's your general view of running back?
It's kind of flipped for me a little bit, where I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with Ramondre Stevenson. Do I want to play Ramondre now that he's playing? A lot of us projected him as probably not playing this week, and now he is. He's got a decent matchup against the Raiders. Unfortunately, it's a 4:00 game. I would have much rather this have been a 1:00 game for multiple reasons, because I know we're talking about running back, but Darren Waller's really interesting today. So like, I think you can play Waller, and if for some reason he gets scratched, there's great pivots on him. But Stevenson, Kamara is going to be chalk. We're projecting him at 23% ownership, roughly. And I think it's going to be higher, but I think it's going to be one of those good chalk situations where it's like, well, as long as you're different enough in other spots, you might as well just smash Kamara in there. I'm fading Jacobs, though. I'm just going to fade Jacobs against New England. I know, like, we think Devontae Adams is probably the weapon that Belichick wants to take away, but he can't do that anymore. Like he's struggling to do that now. So I think they might just take away the running game and allow Derek Carr to beat them if they're going to get beat. So I'm Xing Josh Jacobs out of my player pool, which is scary this year to do. We like the Dallas running backs, right? We like Pollard. I like Zeke this week. I mean, I know it feels gross to say to some people, but Zeke feels fun. And if we're doing all these Dallas stacks, I do think that's one of the games you do want to bring back. So Travis Etienne is a prime guy. And the last guy I'll mention as I go through my monologue, where Zach Wilson's throwing his interceptions, is I will mention Swift.
Okay.
The Lions are playing the Jets, right? Everyone is off Swift again. I haven't followed up on the Justin Jackson news. There was a chance he wasn't going to play today based on an illness.
I know they brought they reinstated Craig Reynolds, so he might end up being the third running back. But anyway, go ahead.
But I mean, so what? And we think they might have some trouble moving the ball against the Jets just based on how good that defense is. So why aren't we getting a couple more dump offs to Swift to try to house it? So I really like Swift today. His ownership is down to 2%. This is the week you play DeAndre Swift, right?
Not
he's
last
cheap.
week when he was chalk. Yeah.
Yeah. He's cheap. He's sub 3% ownership. He helps make a lot of these lineups fit. DeAndre Swift feels like a match this week against the Jets. To me, he catches 5-6 balls. He gets you your 14 to, ceiling game, and you're really, really happy.
I think Swift is a good, just kind of general point again about literally last week, only because of the matchup in the game that he was in. The thousands of teams in DFS across the whole space were willing to talk themselves into, okay, maybe he got to 50% of the work 2 weeks ago, and we're like, okay, because he's cheap, we're willing to say, okay, maybe now they're going back to Swift, right? We were able to wish cast about him because we wanted to wish cast about him. There wasn't really any that strong indicators that Swift was, that this wasn't going to, Jeff says they always give Jamal Williams the one, right? The infamous 1 yard Jamal Williams touchdown, which seemingly happens every week, and they do have a third back, right? But we were willing to do this wish casting when it was convenient and actually at $100 more on DraftKings. And now, because no one wants to play Zach Wilson, we're like writing this game off now, even though every single week we're Amon-Ra, right? Every week it's like, you could almost do that. Anybody could do the show in their sleep. It's like, well, what are you doing with 40% own Amon-Ra every single week, right? What are you doing with 40% own Garrett Wilson, etc.? Bam Knight. Are you playing chalk Bam Knight? It's like now everybody's done with that game. Everybody's done with Swift. The matchup's too tough for Amon-Ra, which I'm not sure that's even a thing that exists. Right. The matchup's too tough for Amon-Ra, right? We just don't like that game. Zach Wilson's going to kill these running backs, but what if the Jets can score a little bit? What if the Jets can score a little bit? What if the Lions offense is just really good, which I think it kind of is. Everybody's forgetting about this game, and Swift is a good example of that. You mentioned again the Cowboys and Jags, and Break says he likes Travis, referring to Travis Etienne, and he's a similar but different DeAndre Swift to me. Remember, there was a month or whatever where Swift was actually, where ETN was actually a little bit more expensive than this, and monster chalk because I think it was the London game or whatever. They finally unleashed him, got 30 touches. Yep. He smashed. James Robinson's not a thing anymore. Blah blah blah. Now it's like, we're talking ourselves out of this first round pick running back, right? It's like, he's not catching as many passes as I want. He hasn't really done anything in the last few weeks. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but a month ago, he was dropping 30-point fantasy games and everybody couldn't help but play, chalky Travis Etienne. If they're going to beat, people are saying in chat again that they're worried a little bit about, Jeff was worried about Lawrence against the Cowboys defensive line. Jeff Driscoll and Davis Mills cooked up that defensive line. So I'm not that worried. But if you are, how are the Jags going to beat them? Because they're going to score points today. I mean, they could just pound ETN on the ground. What if we get another 30-touch ETN game, and he's not that popular at 6K on DraftKings? So he's a good example of a running back I like in tournaments. You mentioned Swift. I do agree, though, to get to kind of the chalkier guys. I'm right on board with you. I cannot fade Kamara. I think there's like a rule in a GPP handbook somewhere, something that says when the backups are out for Alvin Kamara, you just play Alvin Kamara because you just don't get that kind of a work. Like Josh Jacobs doesn't have the kind of a workload Alvin Kamara can get, right? Because he's not that involved in the passing game. So definitely more interested in fading Jacobs than fading Kamara. Similar to my Zach Wilson take, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do like even though Derrick Henry is pretty chalky, I do like him. I mean, I just can't see a way in which the Titans don't completely load him up with carries. And Dontrell Hilliard's out, and I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you do get an extra 2 or 3 targets for Derrick Henry, now you're talking about 4 or 5 catches and a bunch of carries and the goal line work, right? This is why you're playing Josh Jacobs, except Derrick Henry's in a better matchup. So I think Kamara and Henry are the expensive guys I'm still really into, even at this ownership. Anybody else?
Kamara is not even that expensive. Like we're getting sub 7K Kamara with all the reasons you just said, and that's why you can't fade him.
And Nakora asked a question that kind of, let's talk about Kamara then a little bit, because there was somebody else saying, he hasn't done anything all year or whatever. And I totally understand that, but Nakora asked, why do people think he becomes great and scores touchdowns today? Well, I don't think it's becomes great. I think Kamara's still been good. Like, right. It's not like just because you have a bad game doesn't mean you lost your, or a set of bad games doesn't mean, the Monstars came down and stole your talent, right, and took it up to whatever Space Jam. But he lost Mark Ingram is the big thing here, and he's 6,800 against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, bottom 5 for sure. The Falcons are an awesome matchup when Mark Ingram is out, or whatever, used to be Latavius Murray, etc. Was Mark Ingram, then was Latavius Murray, and now is Mark Ingram again. Whatever other ancillary back is out, they typically load Kamara up, right? They don't have another guy they trust to play passing downs. He gets goal line work now. Now you only have to worry about Taysom. You don't have to worry about Taysom and Mark Ingram and right these other guys stealing work from him. He gets loaded up with all the high value touches, right, in a smash matchup. And he did this earlier this year. It might have been against the Falcons, but he did this earlier this year when he got loaded up with against Vegas. A very similar matchup, by the way, against the Raiders. Drops 42 fantasy points. And that's kind of the situation that we're in here today with Alvin Kamara. So I understand if you're like, well, everybody's overrating him because he hasn't been very good this year. But I think it's mostly been circumstantial for Alvin Kamara not being good for fantasy. And I think the circumstances today are very different than what we've seen from him all year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the upside, and he looks like he has a great floor today on top of all of that. So
and the price. I mean, you're
getting everything you want.
He used to be like an $8,500 player at this. Now you can say he should be discounted a little bit because he's a little older, blah, blah, blah. But like he's 6,800, he's priced like I like the Cowboys guys too. You mentioned both Pollard and Zeke. I think they make for interesting tournament plays as well. But like you're getting like a 50% timeshare Cowboys back at the same price as Alvin Kamara with no backup. His price is just so good. Definitely, you're not going to get any argument from me. This is an evergreen comment. Mochi says, "Don't hate Kamara, or don't hate Kamara, hate the coach." Yeah, it's that's like that's the DeAndre Swift thing. It's like DeAndre Swift is still really good at football. I don't hate Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell, but they rotate backs. It's not his fault. It's not DeAndre Swift's fault that he's not producing, and that's kind of what it's been for Alvin Kamara. I do think Breaks brings up getting into some of the tournament-esque running backs. I feel like what you said, quarterbacks and the stacks are like not straightforward, but it's like you can't really go wrong with like any of those top 5 guys. Maybe you talk yourself into Fields or something like that as well as a 6th. It's pretty straightforward. On the offenses I really want to target. At running back, there's a lot of guys that you can get. I'm not so into David Montgomery, but I think the fact that David Montgomery's like not even in play to some people is an indicator that running back's like actually kind of deep today for a short slate. So any like your top, tournament-esque running backs that stick out to you?
I mean, we talked about Kamara, we talked about Derrick Henry, which are great plays. Are we overlooking Austin Eckler today? We like Herbert. We like the matchup. He's not your conventional back, right? He's expensive. People are going to be looking to go to these guys that we were talking about that are high price. Is Eckler going to get overlooked in the mix? And Eckler is one of the guys you can stack with his quarterback as a running back, which you can't do most of the time. Kamara is the other one if he ever had a quarterback, which he hasn't since, Drew Brees has left. And even the last year, Drew Brees was real murky. But Eckler with Herbert, and then you do it with Mike Williams. You want to get real different, you do it with Gerald Everett or something like that. But I like the Eckler, Mike Williams, Herbert stack. You can still bring it back if you want with Derrick Henry, because we have that rule in our head that we can't play two running backs from the same game. Austin Eckler is not a running back. He is, but he isn't.
Yep.
He can get 16 targets. He can out target the league today. Now, is it gonna happen? But no, but it's a range. It's in the range of outcomes. Yeah. So like those are plays that you can make. So Eckler might be overlooked. I might be overlooking Eckler, and that's something I was looking at before. I have him in my player pool, but percentage wise might be a little bit too low, I think. And like you said, whittling down the running back position was a little harder than I thought it was going to be today.
Yeah, it's like 10 games. Do a show on Fridays with the player profiler guys, and the intro that we start to talk about is like smaller slate. My God, there's a bunch of totals under 40. Like I mentioned, you have Brett Rippon and Colt McCoy facing each other, right? Desmond Ridder and Andy Dalton, Mitch Trubisky and Sam Darnold. It's like, look at all these matchups. This is horrible. But then as the week went on, and I'm like, this running back looks good for tournaments. This running back looks good. I mean, this whole front page is projected by fantasy points. So it's, obviously your top scoring guys. But like, dude, you get down here. I'm going to bring up Miles Sanders, my guy. I fully admit, bias. Miles Sanders was one of my guys in the offseason. But I don't get why he's 10% at 6,500. It's like, what is the difference between him and, let's say, Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs gets a couple more carries and has been more consistent throughout the course of the year. But like Miles Sanders has been getting loaded up with work, has 2 30-point games in his last 3 outings, right? 31.5 last week, 34 the week before, 21 carries, 10 carries against Tennessee, which is largely game plan, which is why the Eckler thing is interesting, because the Chargers aren't really going to run Eckler into the mouth of the Titans defense. They're going to throw it to him. But Miles Sanders has just been absolutely smashing, is still only 6,500. And I think 7,800 on FanDuel is a more than reasonable price as well. If they're going to ransack the Bears, the worst defense in the NFL now, the Bears, why would Miles Sanders not, have another 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today? It's like one of the best spots on the slate, and nobody's going back there. So again, the fact that he's low owned, right? Isaiah Pacheco going to our Chiefs thing, or if you prefer McKinnon, right? Somebody said that they have they're including McKinnon in a Mahomes stack. I think it's fine. Those the ETN, the Cowboys guys, there's Eckler. All these guys are like 10% or lower. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a lot of fun tournament plays.
My one gross play is from that game, though. It's a real small percentage, but I'm sprinkling Kenneth Gainwell and just a little bit on some MME stuff.
The only thing I hate about Gainwell is that, like last week, mop-up duty was Boston Scott. I think in a true mop-up where like it's 40 to nothing after the third quarter, I think they might use both Gainwell and Scott. Like, I think he can get there in that capacity too. But it's just annoying. It'd be like, you would think like, oh, let's get the young kid. How about we let our young guy, we don't need to see what Boston Scott has. I mean, I guess maybe that's why they use him, because they don't care if he gets hurt, probably. The only other thing I was going to mention exactly. It is Boston Scott can pull the random, like Justin Jackson last week, where Justin Jackson comes in and vultures off a touchdown, even though the game's close. Boston Scott will do that sometimes. So that is definitely
usually against the Giants, though.
Yeah,
usually it's against the Giants. So
yeah, exactly.
We're good today.
And so I do think, I understand why Miles is a little bit lower. The Ramondre thing, that's the last thing at running back I think we should touch on. The Patriots. You mentioned, kind of figuring out what to do with Ramondre. To let everybody know, Ramondre is questionable, technically questionable. I believe they said overnight something about like they expect him to play, or they're planning for him to play, or something. They never just say he's going to play. It's always some stupid verbiage, to leave themselves an out. But They did not call up anyone, right? So they talked about bringing up JJ Taylor in case Ramondre couldn't go. They did not do that. JJ Taylor is not activated from the practice squad. So it is just Ramondre, Pierre Strong, and Kevin Harris on the roster today with Damian Harris out. With Ramondre, given that situation, I think, we're just trying to read tea leaves. If they had called up JJ Taylor, you'd be more concerned that Ramondre wouldn't play. But even if he played, you'd be like, are they really going to load him up, right? Because he was so valuable for the last stretch. Because he was doing what we just talked about with Kamara. He's like literally the only snap he would miss is like, dude, I just ran for 40 yards. I'm tired. Somebody get me a quick break. And he's got an awesome matchup. Deciding what to do with him is really interesting. But my kind of take is that I don't really like James Conner, but James Conner is just $100 less on DraftKings, and they're both in the afternoon. You can let yourself decide on that in 4 hours or whatever. If you really want to see, maybe we get more news on Ramondre or whatever, you do have an out to swap off of him on DraftKings to James Conner if you just want to avoid the whole situation. The last thing, on the flip side, if you want to like dabble around with some afternoon stuff, I think Pierre Strong is like that's kind of my super grossish running back off the board. 4K min price. If Ramondre isn't fully ready, I definitely think Pierre Strong showed, he's a more explosive player than Kevin Harris last week. And maybe he earned it. He had that big long run. He looked really good. Maybe he earned some work. I don't know. But I just think there's reasons to maybe dabble in. He would be like that Ritter, Lawrence, Zach Wilson of running backs for me. Like, I'm going to sprinkle him in here. He's probably going to maybe even not get a touch. But if he does, or if he did earn some more work, he could really smash here today. So he's my last guy.
Sounds like the perfect afternoon only slate guy. Like just to throw in, just to build a unique lineup because people get really nervous touching guys that are min priced, especially with Ramondre in.
Yep. I totally agree. So let's move to wide receiver then. We talked through a lot of the quarterbacks, and I think a lot of this wide receiver discussion obviously does then extend from your quarterbacks, but that has also kind of led to some really bizarre ownership for me this week. I just can't wrap my brain around the Chris Moore thing. Like
X button.
the only usability for Chris, given this ownership, right? So don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying I don't understand that Chris Moore just had an absolutely monster game with a massive target share. Does he have upside? Could he possibly be underpriced? Yeah, I think so. They didn't. The Texans are just a peculiar team, man. They did not call up a wide receiver today. They literally have 3 active wide receivers today. Chris Moore, Philip Dorsett, and Amari Rodgers. They didn't bring any more up. They have 5 tight ends. They have 5 tight ends and 3 running backs today and 3 wide receivers. Very weird situation in Houston. But if everybody is saying what we just saw from Chris Moore is the Chris Moore, well, we have no evidence to believe that Chris Moore is a double-digit target earner in his career. He's like 29. He's just a dude, he's an end of the roster practice fodder wide receiver, basically. And now we're saying we're going to make him the highest owned wide receiver on a DFS slate. That's just a little bit crazy to me. However, I think we can talk really quickly about the Texans wide receivers, because I think Chris Moore and or the other Texans guys do have usability, particularly in Chiefs stacks, right? If the Chiefs thing happens, like we talked about earlier, and the Texans do push them, they're all free. Chris Moore's 4,200, right? Dorsett and Amari Rodgers are free. I don't think I can play a 1 out of 5 Texans tight ends. But, if you do want to dabble into Rex Burkhead, right, or Dare Ogunbowale or whatever, you have a lot of bringbacks to those Mahomes stacks or usable cheap pieces in the Texans. I just don't think like one-offing Chris Moore because he projects the best. I'm not sure there's a lineup where, Blender would slap my hand or whatever. Of course, there's plus EV Chris Moore lineups, but like, it's hard for me to find a lineup that I feel is plus EV when I click it in with like a one-off Chris Moore chalk.
All I needed to see was the player profile picture, and that helps me exit out. Look at that. Like he looks like the peasant version of the guy that Daenerys Targaryen married in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Next. Done.
I do want to hear about talk about the Chiefs Texans because the Eagles wide receivers are really easy to talk about. There's 2 of them. They're awesome. Play them. Yep. But the Chiefs and Texans side of things is like, okay, I know that you're going to be loading up on Mahomes. I'm really interested in Mahomes.
Mhm.
How are you handling the Chiefs wide receivers and the Texans wide receivers as bringbacks?
I'm not forcing a bring back with the Texans. If they're in there's a few in my player pool. If they end up in a lineup on my MME teams, perfect. If something fits, perfect. I don't think I need to bring back on the Texans. Sort of like I don't think I need to bring back on the Bears. So yeah, I like Komet. If it makes sense to play Komet, I'll play Komet. Like if it makes sense to play Houston Texan, I'll play Houston Texan. I don't think I need to bring back on those two particular games. As far as the wide receivers for the Chiefs go, of course I'm in on MVS. We all know that. That's not a shock. Juju, I like. Kadarius Toney's interesting because he's priced up a little more than I thought, specifically on I think it was FanDuel, that he was at 6K. I mean, 4.8 is not bad, but still you would expect it to be a little bit lower than that, especially when you're getting MVS at 3.8. So, I mean, MVS feels like the guy for me for some of my doubles, but like I said, I'm fine with like any of these guys. No Sky Moore for me this week. I mean, I think that with Tony coming back, that just completely obliterates any Sky Moore snaps that he's going to have. Probably not playing Watson, but I'll sprinkle in Juju, MVS, and maybe some Kadarius Toney here or there. He's probably the third. It's probably MVS, Juju, Kadarius, just based on price and upside and everything like that. But that's the way I'm playing them.
One thing I will say, I would not worry about this level of analysis. Derek says the Texans have only allowed 4 passing TDs all year. They might give up 4 today.
They might give up 4 in the first half.
I understand, that actually as it's fair to point out, Derek says, basically that quarterbacks haven't been awesome for fantasy against the Texans. That is incredibly fluky. If you look at any defensive metric, they are basically the worst defense in the NFL. The Bears have kind of surpassed them. The Raiders are down there too. They're a horrendous defense. The touchdown luck has just been touchdown luck. Dak could have thrown multiple touchdowns last week. It's just Pollard and Zeke got the touchdowns. And they stink so bad. They don't give up a lot of passing touchdowns because they give up a ton of rushing touchdowns.
They're getting trucked against the run all year. They're giving up. It's like, well, Derrick Henry's playing the Texans. We know he's going for 200. Lock it in. Like, I mean, they're just a bad defense. You don't have to give up passing touchdowns when you're getting trucked for 9 touchdowns a game on the ground. Like, it's just,
But the Chiefs don't care about that, right?
Right.
Andy Reid's going to come out and be like, I mean, I like Pacheco, but I'm saying Andy Reid's not going to come out and be like, Patrick, take a seat. We're going to throw it 15 times. Like, he's still going to throw like 20 something times in the first half. They're still going to throw.
This is Andy Reid's Harlem Globetrotters game. He can go out and just run like, he could spin the ball on the opponent's helmet if he wants to do some sort of fluky thing. That's what Andy Reid's going to do today. He's going to do all these little tricks that he didn't want to do before. Mahomes is going to like throw it from behind his back 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's going to be insane.
Mahomes is going to be, doing like behind the back, pat right. He's already done some of this stuff, which is kind of the craziest part. He's been practicing for this Globetrotters game for his whole life, right? The McKinnon pass last week, the left-handed pass he threw to CEH earlier in the year, just all the trick stuff, NFL Street-esque throws that Mahomes make. Andy Reid's going to be doing the thing like where here we go. Here's Andy Reid prepping for the Andy Reid and Mahomes prepping. This is the pregame for them today. He's going to be calling down from the he's going to have guest play callers and stuff like that from the fans. Come down. What play would you like me to run? Point to one on this sheet here. We're going to score a touchdown. No, obviously, mostly kidding, but it just tells you about how we feel about the Chiefs. The Eagles, I also feel like basically the same about. It's why I like Miles Sanders so much. But of course, I mean, you mentioned like the no bringbacks thing, and some people have been kind of just asking about stacks and all that. On those two teams, I think that the bringbacks are interesting. Like you said, Komet, if you really want to dabble in some of these, ESB or something like that, you need a cheap bringback to these stacks because they can be expensive. Mahomes, Kelsey, right? Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. You don't have to. And you can also just like onslaught these offenses. Like last week that worked. Hurts, Miles Sanders, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. Don't need a bringback. Lock it up. You know what I mean? I think you can do stuff like that with those two offenses in particular. Now, Cowboys and stuff, I kind of want to make not not necessarily force a bring back, but it makes a little bit more sense, right? You're playing for the game to get punchy.
Cowboys particularly for me is like one that I'm mostly trying to get a bring back from Jacksonville on that one. The Chargers, I like the bring back, but the only problem with the Chargers bring back is it's Derrick Henry. And so if you're doing Charger stack, everyone's bringing it back with Derrick Henry. So Javon asked about any interest in Tennessee wide receivers. And my answer is I wish I had interest in Tennessee wide receivers, but I don't.
Yep. Same for me. I'm probably sounding like a hypocrite because I can talk myself into some of these other gal brain stuff. And I guess
you said Zach Wilson. You can talk yourself into anything.
I know exactly. So now I'm going to talk myself into the Zach Wilson of wide receivers. Technically, if you said, okay, I'm gonna run 150 Charger stacks, am I going to have any Titans wide receivers in the 150 Charger stacks? Right, a sprinkle of Nick Westbrook-Akine, but it's not even because of like I like him, I hate him. No one wants to click that button. But like you said, Derrick Henry is the natural bring back. And then we'll cover tight end briefly here in just a second. But Chig Okonkwo is going to be really chalky at tight end. And you can argue Austin Hooper is the leverage play there, but like I don't think Austin Hooper ever is actual leverage. He's theoretical leverage, but he's not real leverage. I think it would be like Nick Westbrook-Akine would be the actual Titans leverage play. So It's really just that, right? He has had one really big game this year. Who knows? I don't like that, but it is what it is.
You don't want Robert Woods 4 catches for 35 yards on your lineup?
Yeah, I'll put him in my Zach Wilson teams to make sure they're dead and buried.
Perfect.
Real quick, I don't even have to sweat them. I want to make sure I hit some of the questions, as many as I can.
A lot on Jamar Chase today. I saw in the chat as we were going through. I love Jamar Chase today.
I want to hit these two guys.
Sure.
TJ getting prepped for crunch time, and he's definitely in on the Titans wide receivers, which is funny. Funny timing. Doug asks, I want to talk about Amon-Ra and Chase because I think that they're two of the better expensive tournament plays, right? We talked about a lot of these scrubs, but we haven't talked a lot about the high end because people aren't quite going up to get Chase. I don't think, 16% it shows here, but Chase is another guy. A lot of the ownership can sometimes be tied to stacks, right? When everybody's playing Herbert and Hurts and Mahomes and Dak and not as much Burrow, Chase just kind of gets left behind a little bit in ownership. And so him and Amon-Ra, right? People are done with Amon-Ra. It's like the matchup's too tough. They don't really want to play Jets. So I'm just going to ignore Amon-Ra. Him and those two look like awesome tournament plays to me, Chase and Amon-Ra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Amon-Ra is going to be like one of his lowest ownerships probably for the year based off of like everyone's scared of Sauce Gardner, rightfully so. Guy's an absolute freak on the outside, but Amon-Ra is also a freak who can just like crush any defense, right? So I do like Amon-Ra. He is in my player pool a bit. I'm not completely Xing him out. I love Jamar Chase today. He's been hard to get up to with some of the stuff that I'm doing elsewhere, but I am making it a point to try to get him in some of my single entry stuff as well as my MME. So, it's Jamar Chase. Who's the top player to absolutely nuke this slate today? It's got to be him. He's one of the top 3 guys every week to do that. It's him. It's, Jefferson and like hardly anybody else. Kamara feels like the other guy today that could nuke it, but I love Jamar Chase. I love AJ Brown. Obviously we've gone over that. But again, CD is my favorite player in the wide receiver pool. So I'm trying to get some Chase CD teams going.
Yep. I agree with that. I don't have like a ton of like super compelling, like data points behind CeeDee Lamb other than he's still CeeDee Lamb. He still has a massive target share. He showed that 40-point upside earlier this season. And this is the spot that the Cowboys pass catchers are just, I think, still really under-owned tournament plays, even though they're not low-owned, right? Particularly CD and Schultz. But like, if the touchdowns ever flip to Dak in any given week, right, and it's not Zeke and Pollard touchdowns every time, the Cowboys stacks, which would include CD, Schultz, and Gallup, it's also really easy, right? It's only those 3 guys. I don't got to wade through the Chiefs stuff, right? That's why people don't want to play the Chiefs because I don't, tell me who to play. I don't know. I don't even know who's going to play snaps. the Cowboys is really straightforward. So CD is up there as maybe, one of my favorite tournament plays at wide receiver as well.
If I had a color thing like you do, my little blurb next to CD Lamb would just say, in my expert analysis, he's due. And what a week to do it is against Jacksonville, right? So I think he's due. I think he's going to crush today.
David's playing 100% of Chase. Brian asked about Elijah Moore. I know you don't want to talk about Jets, but I think Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson are actually more of the Zach Wilson conversation. I think that you don't have to play Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson's name is bringing.
Oh my God, Zach Wilson just threw another interception during this monologue. What are we doing here, people?
No, but he's bringing down the ownership of these guys to levels that I think are probably too low. So I would definitely not be Xing out Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson on my player pool. I really like them as well. We're about to run overtime. Favorite tight end or two? Let's hit tight end really quick, and then
my favorite tight end right now is Darren Waller, just based on the fact that he's so cheap on both sites, and if he doesn't play or we get some more news on him, he's easy to pivot off of, and there are good pivots around him. Hunter Henry's right there. You can even pivot down to Foster Moreau if you need to. I mean, Travis Kelce's the best play on the slate. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Dalton Schultz is fun. Ingram's fun for a bring back in that Dallas game. He scores 1 million points last week. People still aren't on him, but those are what I'm doing for tight ends mostly.
I like that at tight end. I think my favorite tournament tight end is actually Evan Ingram, which sounds funny, but he's just a situation where the opposite of Waller. People aren't ready to dive into Waller because we don't know. Whereas Ingram, everybody's like, can't do it again, right? No, he can't have the big game again. And no, he's not going to score 42 fantasy points or whatever. But this isn't like an overreaction type of thing. He just legitimately projects well, fills the tight end position as a potential bring back, right? You want to play your Dak CD or Dak CD Gallup stacks or Pollard, whatever. He fills that tight end position at pretty low ownership, and he clearly has upside, and he just actually projects pretty well. So I think Evan Ingram is my favorite tournament tight end. And defense, any defense that jumped out to you, and then we'll kind of get our conviction play and hand it on over.
Just don't play the Broncos. If they're going to get 30 to 35% ownership, don't play the Broncos.
Please don't play the Broncos. The Patriots are right there at the same. Like if you really need savings, there's other cheap defenses to play. The Broncos aren't even in. I know it's a fine spot against Colt McCoy. It's probably not even the best defensive matchup. They just happen to be that cheapest, defense by a couple $100 or something.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna. They were the easiest X out of the player pool, other than Zach Wilson of the week.
Yeah, definitely agree. Also, breaks, definitely love Dalton Schultz. No argument for me on Schultz. Awesome play in Cowboy stacks. Awesome play all around. All right, we're running a smidge overtime. I don't want to hold up the crunch time crew. They will handle any of your questions that we did not get to. Bring them. Sorry if we missed them, but those guys will lead you up to lock, answering any questions. As we sign off,
it's LeLuuch, Andre, and he who may not be named as your three hosts for the next show.
That's great. Shout out TJ. When we sign off, we give a conviction call every single week. What's the one thing you have to have in tournaments? What is your week 15 conviction play?
I mean, Kamara is the easy one, so I don't want to do that. So let's do the Mahomes double. Mahomes double, 6 touchdowns for Mahomes.
Love it. Mahomes double, 6 touchdowns for Mahomes. And with that, maybe not going to be maybe getting your Eagles stacks. You get your Eagles exposure through Miles Sanders. Another 150 and 2 from Miles Sanders. Load up on your Eagles and Chiefs. Print some money. That'll do it for us. GPP Final Takes. Thanks for hanging out. Myself, Rob, Sosa. We'll see you guys in week 16.
Peace.
We're here back at the Fantasy Bar with your pints and picks for Week 15, presented by BetMGM. Use promo code GRINDERS, gets you a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Clean sweep for us last week. Easy wins for Detroit and San Francisco brings us to 7-1 over the last 4 weeks. Let's stay hot. First pick for you this week, Cleveland, -3 on Saturday. Now, Cleveland, nice matchup here with Baltimore. Played them tough in Baltimore, losing by 3 points. Tyler Huntley, a major concern for me. Under center for Baltimore and big splits here. 36% of the bets, yet 62% of the money on the Browns. I am with the money here. Next pick, we're going to Monday Night Football with Green Bay -7. Now, we've seen this number been bet down, but it's at a playable number here at 7. Will the real Baker Mayfield please step up? I think we see a lot of turnovers here from Baker Mayfield on the road. Perfect weather situation here for Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers. Give me the Packers -7. That'll do it here for Pints and Picks for Week 15. For BetMGM, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck with your bets, and we'll see you next week.
RotoGrinders, NFL Crunch Time. We're back another week of NFL football. I'm TheLuuch here with Dre and TJ, and great stuff from Rob and Ebeimfohr on the GPP Final Takes. Love some of those calls. What's going on, fellas? Ready for another week of football? We saw some interesting games yesterday. Buffalo pulled it out. Snowballs and everything were on the field. Andre, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Always trying to get my lineups into the last minute, but other than that, I'm doing well. Feel kind of good about this week. It's a weird one, but nonetheless, when it's weird, it makes for an interesting GPP slate. So looking forward to giving some good takes.
Good takes. We like them. TJ, good to see you on this Sunday. How are you?
You as well. Once again, I gotta apologize to Rob for forgetting to announce him on the show before. I'm doing double duty today. Was on GrindersLive earlier, back on Crunch Time. So he's mad at me, but I love Rob. He did great on the last show. Excited for today's slate. I got my lineups in. Yesterday felt like it should have gone so much better. Just another day of breaking even in NFL when a lot of calls went really well. But you know what? It is what it is. We're ready to go get back at it for today.
Hit that like button. By the way, I got to give you kudos. TJ hit the Jameson Williams call, and about 20 minutes after 1 o'clock kickoff, he cashed in. So that was a phenomenal call. And I was making fun of you for saying, "Oh, hit the like button. I'll give you a play." It worked out. So maybe do it again. How many likes do you need for you to give everyone another low-owned play today?
Well, you know what? I'm disappointed because I got us up to, I think, 130, 140 likes when we were on GrindersLive today. And I'm looking at it now, and they're only at 152. So I take it back, Rob. I don't like you. You suck. Because we didn't get enough likes on the show before we get to 200 likes. I think I got some nice low-owned plays for the people.
That is an OG Rugrats hoodie, by the way. I like that. That is
Little Reptar.
Yeah, that's bringing some nostalgia back here. Quick plug, Scores and Odds. Check it out. If you're not with us over there, you're missing out. All of our RG analysts and a bunch of other really sharp industry minds. Parlay IQ's over there for football and NBA. Dre puts out a lot of good stuff with Parlay IQ for us, and you'll see some of that this coming week, I'm sure. I guess we should just jump into it, Dre. What do you think? Should we talk about quarterback, and then we'll take some questions at the end?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Cool. Who do you like there?
Quarterback is fairly simple for me. Everyone's on Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence, and I understand why I like that too a lot. But I'm trying to get guys like Mac Jones too as well. But Justin Herbert is one of my favorite guys. I love his upside here in this spot, in this matchup too. So he's someone I'm going to be coming in well over owned on the field with. And obviously, my guy Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, I'm going to always be over owned on him. Especially with the pass funnel defense like Tampa Bay, and they're still missing a couple corners. So I think those two quarterbacks are the top quarterbacks I'm really want to try to get to as much as I possibly can. I don't mind taking some shots on Patrick Mahomes. You just got to pair him with the right receivers. So that's where it gets a little tricky. So I would, if you're running Jeep, obviously if you're everyone probably said is if you're running a lot of lineups, make sure you're pairing him with some of his receivers because they go either way. But I also do like the running game a lot here in this spot too, so I'm kind of more on that. Jalen Hurts, just play the guy. Like, if you're ever playing lineups, you need to at least have one Jalen Hurts lineup. There's no way around that. The way this man is playing this series at an MVP caliber level, I think you need to have him today in some lineups just in case. And two GPP guys that I really do like a lot are Andy Dalton, and I'm thinking about playing Ritter on the other side, but that's the other guy I wanted to possibly mention here today as well.
All right, TJ, over to you, quarterback.
You can't play Andy Dalton, Drake. Come on. We've been watching these games. We got Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara out there, but I don't know about Andy. We'll see. You can tell me I told you so if you're right on this one. I got a garbage QB I'm playing too in this one, so I can't blame you. But my 20 percenters are Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. The ones I was trying to the ones I'm trying to get in the 10% range: Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, and Ryan freaking Tannehill. Everybody's on Derrick Henry today, as they should. I'm going to have 40+% Derrick Henry, but this game's going to score a ton of points. Everybody's on this game. We love this game. I'm going to kind of attack it in GPPs by doing a couple things. One, I'm going to be overweight on Derrick Henry. Two, I'm going to get 10% Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to stack these receivers with Tannehill and Okongwu, a little bit of Hooper, just in case the Chargers game plan something specific for Henry and it's the touchdowns end up being through the air. The other thing I'm going to do is I have about 10% Chargers defense, so that if my Tannehill blows up, if Henry doesn't do much, well, I got 10% Chargers defense there kind of carrying me in there. So I'm getting tons and tons of exposure to this game. I'm playing a whack load of Chargers. I'm playing a whack load of Derrick Henry, but I'm also going to mix in some Chargers defense and some Ryan Tannehill stacks just in case this game doesn't go the way that everybody thinks it's going to be on this one. And then I am mixing in about 5% Trevor Lawrence as well. The optimizers have given me about 15% Mahomes, 15% Fields, and only 7% Prescott. That does worry me a little bit. I might try and switch up a few Fields teams to Prescott teams. But other than that, I really like where I'm at so far.
Is a whack load Canadian slang I'm not familiar with, or is that
just a lot? So okay. I couldn't swear, and so I had to pivot.
You're a good man. You're a better man than me. Let's move on to running back. Drake, what do you like here?
Running back. See, now running back is the hardest position for me probably on this slate because there's a lot of running backs I like that I want to get to. Derrick Henry's I'm gonna be double the field on him. I'm getting well over the field on Isaiah Pacheco today. I think he's in a phenomenal spot here, so I want to get as much of him as possible. I'm going back to Miles Sanders again this week and being well over the field on him. I think he's a fantastic play. I like Zeke a lot, even though he's coming at low ownership. I still think you need to try to get as much as you can of him as well. Austin Eckler, another guy that I'm doubling the field on. I do also want to mention they were talking about Dare Umbugawale. I like him. I would get probably like 5 to 10% of him, but not that much. That's the only guy. That's just enough. I think of him that you want to have today. I do like Zonovan Knight. I think you should be under the field on him compared to what I think ownership is saying that we should have on him. I think ownership right now is saying we should have like 20% to 15%. I think probably coming in a little bit under on that is just fine in my opinion. At the field with Alvin Kamara, I think that's a fantastic play. And Ramondre Stevenson, with him probably being ruled in and playing, I think you need to get as much of him as you possibly can, because if he plays, he might go off and have a big game against this Vegas defense here. So I like getting to him a good amount here in this spot, and even running him with your Mac Jones stack and pairing him with like a receiver or a tight end.
All right, drop your questions. We'll get to them momentarily here. We're moving on to wide receiver. Wait, did I let TJ talk about running backs yet?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Didn't mean to crap on you there.
More people that I'm getting a whack load of. So I'm just having a lot of trouble playing on FanDuel today, finding value, So like I'm getting to myself I'm getting 40% Henry and then I'm getting 30% James Conner, 20% Eckler, 20% Miles Sanders, 20% Kamara. Those are my favorite backs, but unfortunately, I got 20% Burkhead and Ogunbowale as well, just because I don't know where else we're going to get salary other than these Houston guys. And so I set a rule that I'm not going to play more than one Houston player in any lineup, but it does lead to me getting to some Rex Burkhead, some Dare, some Jordan Akins, Chris Moore, and Amari Rogers. And so it's uncomfortable. I'm not full stacking Houston by any means, but I do find myself mixing and matching a lot of different single pieces there. And then other guys I'm getting to in tournaments, I'm getting some ATN, some Pacheco, Cordero Patterson, Jerick McKinnon, DeAndre Swift. Those are the main guys I'm looking at. And then the sprinkles I have as well, Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay. Now we'll move on to wide receiver. Dre, I feel like you're going to talk to me about some Chargers probably.
Oh, yeah, of course. You play Keenan Allen. He's healthy now. Play him. Just play as much as you possibly can. He's my number one receiver on the slate that I'm rostering. I think you need to get to a lot of things you possibly can. Play as much Devontae Adams as you can too, as well. like these good guys are up top are not getting the ownership they deserve. Enough of the ownership I believe that they deserve. So like Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith with no Gobbert being back today, Chris Godwin. These guys I'm going to be well over the field on. I like Jacoby Myers too as well. I like Nelson Aguilar a little a good amount too as well. I'm trying to limit my ownership on Gallup, but Gallup is coming up a lot for me. I'm going to take some chance on Drake London. I think Drake London's in a weird spot, like I said, with Ritter being there. I was watching some film on Ritter yesterday, and he's not a bad quarterback. It's just more so how is he going to go through his reads and see the field and get the ball to Drake. So I think he might be able to do it a little bit more better than Mariota. So I'm going to take a chance on him and see how it pans out. I do like Amari Rogers more than Chris Moore today. So I just wanted everyone to, they should be a little bit ahead on that. And Rashid Sneed, I think it's worth a GPP shot as well as Mike Evans, because touchdown variance has just ruined him a little bit this year as well. And obviously you run these KC receivers out there. Excuse me, I think that they're fine. Just want to mention Deontay Johnson as well, and Nuke Hopkins, DeAndre, play him because he's just sort of get a boatload of targets today. You're muted.
Luuch with the mute.
You got
an
me.
amateur.
Made it through half a show.
Every show you're muted.
Every show. Well, I'm working on my my people skills here, and I don't want to cut anybody off. 2147, that might be low for the season. All right, wide receiver TJ. I'm gonna go mute myself again.
So 6 of my 8 highest owned receivers today are Chargers and Eagles. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Kez Watkins. Because I'm getting so much Herberts and Hurts, I'm stacking the receivers with them. I'm also getting a ton of Jamar Chase, a scary amount of Robert Woods, and then a lot of CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams as well. From there, I'm just mixing and matching a lot of cheap places to find value, and a lot of it is uncomfortable. Kadarius Toney, first game back from injury. Equimimius St. Brown and Dante Pettis alongside Justin Fields. No Darnell Mooney, no Chase Claypool. Maybe these guys catch a big one. A little bit of Westbrook Akine, Zay Jones, Rashid Shaheed I'm playing a little bit. This is a guy for the Saints that has been playing weirdly well lately. 3 targets last game, 2 games ago, 4 targets last game, getting more and more snaps every game. So he's somebody I'm even getting to a little bit as well, just trying to find value so that I can keep paying up for my Ecklers and Derrick Henrys, and then my Jamar Chase, AJ Browns, and Keenan Allens as well.
Tight end, Travis Kelce, highest ceiling on the slate. We saw Evan Ingram nuke the slate last week. Chigakonkwo kind of gaining some steam here last couple weeks without Traylon Burks, and they're finally figuring out how to use the damn guy. By the way, Dre, I'm with you on the Chargers. Call it an emotional hedge or whatever you want coming from a Titans fan, but they're without 7 defensive starters today. So you tell me. I mean, I don't need any more analysis there. Anyway, tight end, Dre, how much Kelce you thinking here? Is he by far the best option, or is he a little too expensive for you?
I'm trying to get as much as I possibly can, but it's just hard. Evan Ingram, who had a monster game last week, is projecting really well within the blitz, so I'm getting a lot of him. Especially playing here with Trevor Lawrence. I'd like Hunter Henry a lot, and Chig, and in your Titans, the tight ends, Chig and Austin Hooper like next for me, right in line, neck and neck there. So trying to see who I like. They want to get to a lot of. I'm also, but those guys are pretty much even for me. Travis falls right behind there. I do also like Jared Everett a good amount. We just play this guy every single week, a part of the Herbert stacks, because he's gonna have a big week eventually, even though they have all those weapons. So I just like that option, especially he's gonna be low owned in GPPs. And we got Juwan Johnson back for the Saints here. So the Saints are getting a little bit healthier. I like Juwan Johnson. He's caught a touchdown, I think, in every single game he's played this season for the most part. So, and him being back after like I think a 2-game absence, I think bodes well for Andy Dalton, and I think that he'll be able to put up some points here with him. So I like getting to him a good amount.
Well, Johnson has caught touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 and 4 of the last 6. Call it what you want. Maybe there'll be some regression, but Dalton goes to him in the red zone. So yep. I think that's fair to take a couple shots on him. TJ, tight end, let's go.
Chig and Travis Kelce are making up about 50% of my ownership. And then from there, my next highest guy is Gerald Everett, somebody I wish I was actually getting a little bit more of. Taysom Hill, Jordan Akins, Dalton Schultz, Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet, Austin Hooper, and Greg Dulcich. That's kind of my entire pool today.
All right. You guys have any lean on any defenses? I was looking at FanDuel ownership, and Denver's just projected to carry ridiculous, like 20+%. And I get it, but defense is so volatile. Like, I'm not playing Denver defense today. I'm just not doing it. I'd rather look for a spike game somewhere else out of this luck box we call defense and special teams.
Yeah, they're in my pool, but like I'm not getting, I don't think, more than 10% of any defense today.
I just think go underweight on Denver. They're in a good spot, but I think just go underweight on them and you'll be fine. Don't have to be overweight on them. I think Latavius Murray pairing with them, that's probably why, if you're doing like a defense running back thing, I would do that if anything, because that way you know that they're going to win. And Denver does have a good defense. There's no lying about that. It's hard, but I would just be half the field on it and try to just mix and match more of the other defenses, just to have some ownership, but just to have some variety.
Okay, let's start looking at some questions here, and I'll throw it over to the Discord. What's our like count at, TJ? How are we looking over there?
We're at 168, so 32 more. 32 more likes, and then we get the super sneaky GPP play of the day.
Cool. I got a DK Cash question. Who is the best cash quarterback for DraftKings today from Primo in the Discord?
See, quarterback is weird. To me, it's all spread out.
It's Hurts or it's Herbert to me.
I probably would say, probably Herbert.
Okay. For FanDuel single entry, let's see. I'll throw this over to you, TJ. FanDuel single entry. Would you rather play Moore or Zay Jones? Chris Moore or Zay Jones?
Zay Jones.
All right. Dre got a FanDuel high dollar single entry question for you. Pick 3 of these running backs: Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, or Pacheco. I guess who would you not pick?
I'm picking Miles Sanders, I'm picking Alvin Kamara, and I'm picking Pacheco. Who's the other one? James Conner? Yes, James Conner's off the list.
Yep. Have you heard anything on Darren Waller, guys? Like, is he a full go, and could you play him in cash?
He's X out of my player pool, so I'm not even entertaining it.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on for Tormans? Would you double tight end with him and Kelce? Or I guess I'll ask TJ. Do you have any Darren Waller? What are your thoughts of playing?
I think I have Do I have any Darren Waller? No, I got none.
I think Kelsey's like the exception. Like you can play him at flex, no questions asked on pretty much any slate, and I don't think anybody could follow you for doing that.
You can. It's just like, why? You know, like I would rather play him at tight end than play somebody else at flex.
Right. Unless you really like Darren Waller or, some value tight end, but I'm not seeing it today. DK Cash question. Jacoby Myers or Zay Jones? Either one of you guys, go for it.
I like both of those guys today.
Myers,
okay. QQ in the chat. The last piece for a FanDuel tournament. I'll throw it over to you, TJ. He already has Keenan Allen, so would you play Mike Williams or James Conner as the last piece? I guess if you have Herbert, I mean, I'm cool.
If it's Herbert, it's definitely Mike Williams, and if it's not, it's Conner.
Okay. DK Cash question. I know you guys are mostly playing tournaments, but I gotta get this out here. McKinnon or Knight for DK Cash?
Knight.
I think Knight's the call too.
Yeah.
He'll carry more ownership too, most likely. Can you play Pollard and Elliott in the same lineup, or should you just play one, Andre? What do you think about that?
Pollard and Elliott in the same line. No, I would like them separated today.
Yeah, on a big slate, I think you want to play one for the ceiling game if it gets there. FanDuel Cash. Favorite wide receiver at 5,600 or less? Do you guys have anybody in that range you're looking at?
I can hit you with that right quick here. Do you want to ask Dre another question, then I'll give you an answer?
I do. All right. Dre, I'm going to ask you another question. FanDuel single entry, favorite stack to win it all from Carolina Guy. What's up, Carolina Guy, in the Discord?
That's tough. Favorite stack to win it all? I'm going to say I'm probably going to say Herbert because I'm high on him. So it's going to be to me it's Herbert or Hurts, one of the two.
All right. Would you rather play Chris Moore or Amari Rodgers? We're going back to Houston. Rodgers. All right. Dre says Rodgers got that.
And it's going to make this person uncomfortable, but you know who the answer is to the $5,600 receiver you play in cash? It's Robert Woods.
I mean, theoretically, yeah. Why not? But he just hasn't really done much this season, but I get it. I am scrolling up here to look for some questions in the YouTube chat.
Question.
All right.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you like David Montgomery today?
Not really.
8%.
Are you going to sell us on him? Are you going to sell us in all 350?
Oh, no, because I have him in my high dollar lineup, and I'm about to change him as soon as I put my entries in.
I wouldn't play him, but what do I know? I'm just the host. I'll let you guys talk. Half the time I'm muted anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, I'm looking in the YouTube. Aguilar and James Conner. Or Jesus, good Lord, what is this question from Shiv Daddy? I didn't have caffeine yet today. TJ, you're smarter than me. Can you decipher what this question is in the chat? 1232 from Shiv Daddy. I'm gonna go find one for Dre. Would you rather have James Conner and Judy or Zay Jones and Derrick Henry? Dre.
James Conner and Judy or Zay Jones and Henry?
Yep.
Probably the second one.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Aguilar and James Conner or Zay Jones, and then your choice of Jacoby Myers, Drake London, Jerick McKinnon, and Foreman. I think the answer there is either Zay Jones and Drake London for tournaments, but I think your optimal route is Aguilar and James Conner.
I just heard Argentina won the World Cup. I can't confirm if it's real or not, but I don't have any TV on here. I'm getting text messages from the basement. So if so, then what a way for Messi to do it. Scrolling through the chat, Rob was giving out amazing plays earlier. You're right. Whack load is a metric measurement. We don't use it in the US. I love it. Let's see. Any Mixon love today with no Vita Vea in the fold, Dre?
I don't mind him. I really don't.
Okay, and producer Steve did confirm Argentina won the World Cup. That's awesome. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown playable in DK Cash if it helps you fit the rest of your build? Thoughts on Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ?
I'm not getting too much of him today just because of the Sauce Gardner aspect of it. But like, if he fits as your last piece, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it.
Okay. Straight up, Dre. James Conner or Alvin Kamara?
Kamara.
Yep. Okay. Can you play Russell Gage as a last piece on FanDuel, TJ?
I think that's somewhat okay if you're. I would like it if it's in a Joe Burrow stack.
That makes sense.
And then read the Amon-Ra St. Brown one. I will just say, like, I like CeeDee Lamb better for $500 less. I like Jamar Chase more for $500 more. In the message, did they say Amon-Ra or did they just say St. Brown?
I said Amon-Ra.
Okay, I was wondering. I was like, if they were maybe just asking if they could play the Bears guy as a last piece. I don't think necessarily he's a tournament guy.
Yep. 12:57. Start wrapping them up. We're gonna fire through some questions here. Josh Palmer or Garrett Wilson for DKGPP. Dre, what are your thoughts between Palmer and Wilson or any other 62
Palmer.
Palmer.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Good luck, everyone. LuuchH has some season-long matchups. Well, I'm shot in one league, B shot, but I'm still alive in two. Going back to the Discord, let's see. GPP, let's go, TJ. I'm assuming, I don't know what more it is. Chris Moore, Elijah Moore, whatever. Gallup or Rodgers and Murray. Probably Chris Moore, I'm assuming. So Chris Moore and Gallup or Amari Rodgers and Murray.
I think Amari Rodgers and Murray.
I'm assuming that's what it is. FanDuel Cash, Dre, Jawan Johnson or Tyler Conklin. Interesting one.
Jawan Johnson or Tyler? Jawan Johnson.
Okay. I think we are caught up. 12:58. Hit that save button.
Oh boy, man!
Yeah,
Here we go.
you too, Dre.
I know because I'm changing my high stakes lineup, and I feel like I shouldn't be doing this, but I am, and it's gonna hurt me in the end.
Yeah, we didn't really get any mention on Jerry Jeudy. I have him penciled in my single entry build right now, and I feel
Who's your high stakes stack, Dre?
I was going Hurts, but I'm going Herbert now.
That's hilarious because I actually had Hurts in my high stakes this morning too, and I have switched it to Herbert.
Oh boy, I'm just starting a single stack though. I feel like I do a double.
What one player?
If you're going single stack, you better be playing Hurts because if you need at least a double with Herbert.
What
today,
one player breaks the slate today, Dre?
Oh God, I don't know.
I'm going Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I like Miles Sanders a lot. I can't even get to him though.
DJ
Austin Eckler.
Who breaks the slate? Austin Eckler. Oh, what's our light count at? Man, we freaking pushed that to the limit, man. We almost didn't get there. Just blurt it out. Who's your guy? Lone guy. Give it to us.
Ryan Tannehill, baby.
Oh, come on. Are you trying to butter me up for some reason here?
Oh, okay. I got a good lineup. Thank you for calling my Miles Sanders call. That helped out a lot.
Well, only thank me if he does well. Only thank me if he drops 25 today.
I'm going to tell you what I have. Because I'm thinking I have Herbert, Henry, Pacheco, Keenan Allen, Amari Rodgers, Mike Williams, Jawan Johnson, Miles Sanders, and the Broncos defense.
I wish I could have afforded Miles Sanders instead of Alvin Kamara, but I rolled with Herbert, Kamara, Dare, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Robert Woods, Gerald Everett, Derrick Henry.
We hit lock, fellas. We hit lock.
That's why I'm announcing it. I wouldn't do that unless we hit lock.
Yeah, exactly. I know no one's going to have a chance to change it, and it's high stakes. So if someone really plays at a high stakes, then all right, we'll tie for first place. I'll split that $250K.
After walk, I'm not too worried about it because nobody's swapping in Kamara and Dare and the Lions D anymore because they are locked.
The only thing, the Titans' offensive line is so bad right now. Dennis Daly is so bad at football. I think it was like pressures since 2016. He's on the list twice with two different teams. So, like, Tannehill, I'm praying for him. I hope he stays in an upright position today against the Chargers line, man. We'll see. Anything else before we get out of here, fellas?
No, I think that's it. Good luck to everyone today. If you're in any contest I'm in, hope you come in second and just put cash because I'm trying to take first. But other than that, I have nothing else.
TJ, parting words?
No, I'll finish second today. If you guys want to finish first, I'll give it to one of the people. I'm gonna beat Dre, so I'm gonna make sure I finish ahead of him. But if one of the people takes first, I'll take like 100K second somewhere.
I mean, we're playing on two different sites. We can go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I will beat you on FanDuel today, Dre. I guarantee it.
How about this? Let's just do a head-to-head next week.
That'd be fun. That would be fun. We should start doing like a little crunch time head-to-head. Announce what the teams are after lock. I think that would be a fun.
We should. Let's do it.
Nothing big, but just like to talk trash to each other.
Yeah, next week. Next week, let's set it up for real.
I like
we'll
it.
Get Steven on it too. And I know if we keep talking, he's going to say Red Zone's calling our name and he's going to pull the plug on us. So thank all you guys for tuning in and sticking with us this morning. Great stuff here. We appreciate all you guys dropping the questions in. And best of luck today. Have a good Sunday. So for Steve and TJ and Andre, I'm TheLuuch. See you later.